Ooh, all right. Well, that's not quite what I wanted for the Valheim background, but let's get that just... There we go. And let's see if I can get my browser window to overlay. There we go. All right, guys. So, for anybody who's going to be pitching in, chiming in, learning about some D&D tonight, it's a little bit different than we normally do. We normally start with a little bit of chat, screwing around in lobby, but we do a lot of Among Us here. We do that on Wednesdays at 8 p.m. and it's usually a very, very good time, but I figured I'd switch it up a little bit tonight and do something a little bit more community oriented. So, you know, anybody who is looking to learn how to play D&D, maybe we can give some direction to that. You know, a lot of us here are relatively new or have some mild experience. Myself personally, I'm not going to claim to fame here on being, a pro DM or anything, but, you know, I've been a player for many, many years. I'm pretty familiar with how the game goes. I've got a lot of different characters that I've just absolutely fallen in love with. And the whole point of the night is to just learn how to play a game of D&D. So we're gonna hop right into it. I'm gonna go ahead and unmute, get everybody else here in the chat, and start asking some questions, kind of walking people through. Enjoy the stream.
In the cup.
All right. Let's
It was
see.
like still ice for like
Can we
almost
verify we have
24
audio in
hours.
here?
What'd you say, Lemon?
I'm just verifying that we got audio on the stream.
Yeah, I'm good.
Everything sounds good?
Ew.
All right. Got my Valheim background there for whatever. So anyway, first thing I'm
Love
gonna
that
do.
game.
Yeah, right. It's I picked a background. Hold on, I'm gonna just browser window, close that out. So I picked a game that is just soothing for the most part. You get on a boat and you just start coasting. And that's the first maybe 40 minutes of this video is just floating around on a boat. So I've had this one in a backlog and I'm like, this is very boring, but it's soothing. So perfect for tonight. Anyway, so those of you who are in here, we've got, let's see. I don't have an overlay on this, but we got, Fox, we got we got Lynx, we got RJ, 02, Kitty, Mad Dog.
Jesus.
All right, so we got a few of us in here.
Okay.
Now, sound off really quick. Give a name and who here is coming in learning D&D for the first time.
I.
All right. Your name is well, it's a grammatically proper, I guess.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, hi.
What about you, Fox? Are you new to D&D?
I'm not. I've never played D&D, but I have consumed a lot of D&D content, and
okay, things like maybe Critical
like the
Role
game
and
a lot.
such.
Yeah.
Okay,
I haven't
so
watched
you're
that.
probably familiar.
Yeah, I know. I've watched my fair share of different things on it, and I like the game a lot. So.
Okay. So, and then I know 02 is also learning D&D for the first time. RJ, I believe you have a little bit of experience. Is that right?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And then Lynx, you just, I mean, you're familiar with role-playing games,
Yes.
but you are not terribly familiar with the D&D 5th edition iteration,
I
correct?
am not.
Okay. And Mad Dog, this is all new for you, right?
Yeah, I mean, I know it's Dungeons and Dragons, and that's about it.
And you just kind of hopped in here right before we started the stream, and you're just like, "What's going on, guys?" All right, well, now you're a part of our stream, so come on in.
Bravo.
You're
Bravo.
gonna hang out with us tonight. So yeah. So we got a couple of new folks. That's kind of the point of tonight. We got a couple of folks that have some experience, even if it's
Didn't
just
even
if you're
ask me. I'm
watching.
so hurt.
You know,
Wow.
I did not ask you because I got caught up on Mad Dog just stream bombing. Anyway, Kitty's here, guys. One of the most wonderful
Kitty is
people
here.
in our
Kitty,
server.
have you played D&D before?
Yes, I had an IRL D&D group and an online D&D group.
There you go.
So we got pro.
Yeah,
up
we
in here,
stayed. We
probably
stayed
knows
the
more
we
than I
stayed the
do.
night for the IRL one.
Yeah, I knew somebody who like a week where they just were in the house the whole week and did a whole like.
Yeah, we would go on
Campaign, it was
Fridays, and then
crazy.
we would like stay up till like 5 a.m. playing, and then go to bed
It's a vibe.
after playing
wow.
video games. We would play D&D, then play video games, then I'll
Yeah, that
fall
sounds about
asleep
right.
in the dungeon master's living room.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Good time.
So,
Sometimes I had to sleep on the floor. It's very unfortunate.
all right. I'm just switching my voice activity on Discord. Can you guys hear me all right?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. I had a
Yeah.
push to talk, figured it was kind of useless. We're going to be going back and forth a lot. So anyway,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we got a couple of vets, we got a couple of new folks, and then a couple of in between. I'd consider myself a little bit more on the experienced side, hence why I am confident enough to host tonight. But I'll lead off with, I am by no means a professional dungeon master. I am like, I'm good at the game. I know how to play, and I've ran a few games myself, a lot of one-shots with friends. And there have been several times where, you know, they gave good feedback, and I've been fairly confident in running in my own campaign. I just simply don't have the time for the most part. So if I
Yeah.
did run a campaign, it would be something like on a Monday night, 8 o'clock, 1 to 2 hours, just a brief, let's keep rolling, let's get moving, but we'll get into that.
So short. Jesus.
It's one of those
That
like
is
we
2
would
hours
do it
is
brief.
short.
Tease.
Well, I'll just tell you guys, I have
I would put like 5 or 6 hours.
Well, I have a weekly group that I play with, where we do about a 3-hour session. And
That sounds like a reasonable time.
yeah, it's a little bit longer. I mean, 2 hours I feel is not
5 to 6
unreasonable
isn't-
if you have enough
Yeah.
recency.
I
So-
guess.
I mean,
Hey,
it sounds short to me.
got anything wrong
know.
with my 5 to 6 hour sessions, guys?
All right, guys. So
No.
King Lemon doesn't have enough time in his life to contribute to gaming full time. End of stream. Boom. Done.
Crazy.
Not worth the conversation. All right. So anyway, you trolls. The like I said, experience is there.
That's what we're here. I thought that's what we were here for, is trolling.
Yeah, naturally. That's why you're here.
Okay.
Yeah,
clearly.
definitely.
Mad dog. Jeez. All right,
That rolls
so
up
I-
a minute before.
let's bring it back in. All right. So what we're gonna do now is kind of get into a little bit of kind of how to start, or rather how we got started in D&D, to give a kind of framework for anybody who is coming into the game for the first time. Because a lot of people, this is a very intimidating game, right? It's new for
Yeah.
a lot of
It's big.
people, and if you've got the grew up in the 90s experience. Hey Morn, thanks for joining the call. Just hang tight, we're going through a little bit of an intro to D&D here for a moment. But yeah, we're doing a lot of people get very anxious, myself included. It was a little bit of an intimidating process because there's a lot of books, there's a lot of numbers, there's a lot of things that you have to take into account. There's a huge spell list. All I'm here to say is none of that matters if you create a background for your character that you don't even like. So the main goal of starting up in D&D is loving the character you create as a player. You need to come up with an idea, and there's templates, there's different races you can play, and we'll get into that. Different classes that you can play as, and you can come up with a theme. If you want to play Aragorn from Lord of the Rings, knock yourself right the heck out. We'll help you. We'll help you fine tune the sucker and make him just
Dude,
the
that would-
same.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to make sure that you love the character you're playing. That's the main thing in D&D. Because if you don't like your character, you're not going to enjoy the game. Just period.
Yeah.
And you might not know you won't like your character at first. And I'll say this: that's okay. If you are new to the game. I have enough experience in this game where I would, in a campaign that I would ever run, I would allow people to change their characters up after the first couple of levels if they realize they don't like the direction it's going. You might just straight up not enjoy playing a bard because you don't want to seduce every person that you come across. I'm kidding. Don't do that. That's a boring way to play D&D anyway. No, you might not want to be a spellcaster. You might not want to be a fighter. You might want to do the spell sling, and you might want to be a support healer. You can always switch it up, but if you don't want to play a certain character, you have 2 options. You can always create a new one and kill your current one off and talk with the DM about doing that and transitioning them out. Or not killing them off, but finding a way for them to exit gracefully. Either one. Or retcon your character. That's less ideal if you're trying to keep with a theme, but every person's game is a group setting. You all have to come to an agreement in a campaign that you want to play together and that you're going to compromise together, because you're all creating a story together. It's like reading your favorite book, but you're put right in the middle of it, and you get to decide the actions that your character, your hero, takes moving forward. So with that in mind,
rad as hell description of what D&D is. I love that.
well,
Yeah,
thank you.
wonderful description, London.
I
Bravo,
wish I
bravo.
could say that I had rehearsed that. So, because I cannot
I'm
remember what I
clapping,
just
but
said.
you can't hear it.
Okay, gotcha. But hey, you know what? I got it on a recording. That's fine. We're good. So
Good job.
we're gonna now jump into a little bit of character creation and kind of go from go to each person. If you're participating, great. If you're just here to hang out, throw in some commentary, that's fine too. But I'll go through the list of each person who wants to create a character. We'll get you plugged into D&D Beyond, which is actually a great source that I would recommend because you can kind of build a character. It's vanilla as all get out because I'm not using a platform tonight that has all the goodies in it because I don't want to overwhelm anyone. It's going to be basic, super vanilla characters. Okay. So the link is in the D&D and Pathfinder chat. Just look up a little bit in the gaming section. You'll find it. Not there, kitty. Not there. There you go. She just hops out of the channel and goes, oops. So go there to create a character, and I'll start going through each person and helping you kind of fine tune. But first thing, Lynx, you're familiar with role-playing games, and
Yes.
you've played a little bit of D&D. What's your first impression on character creation?
I actually didn't go through the whole character creation step like I would with I would if I was a beginner,
Oh.
because I've created many characters before. I essentially my only experience with 5e, I literally just like hopped onto D&D Beyond, allowed it to make me a generic character, and then tweaked it a little bit.
Okay. And with your first character on D&D, this is just to give people an idea what kind of characters they can make. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your character that you had just used? You were telling me about it earlier. I know you're fleshing out the character's background, but tell me a little bit about the character creation. What made you think of building that character?
So I essentially built it's a tiefling druid, and I essentially built that character to fit in to the story that I was joining, because I was joining an already ongoing campaign.
Right, so
with
you
some old
kind of
friends.
hot dropped right in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the thing was, like, in the story they were at a point where they were looking for a tiefling sorcerer.
Okay.
So I decided that like I would become I would be a tiefling, so they would like confuse me for the sorcerer they're looking for, and like that's how I could get involved with the group story wise. And I decided to become a druid because there was already a bard and there was already a rogue with an assassin specialty in the
Right.
group.
Nope. You don't want to overlap too much because then you're
Ooh.
stealing other people's thunder, that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, and like I realized like there wasn't a spellcaster, like a decent spellcaster in the group, other than the bard.
Okay. So that's a good
So
so that's a good plot hook actually. So you kind of had you clearly had a good enough DM to really tie in your new character. Most DMs, anybody who has any kind of experience with this should be able to do it just fine. But it sounds like a really good plot hook to really tie your character into the campaign by accident. And like, oh, we weren't trying to find, you were looking for this other tiefling, but hey, do you know where to find him? And you're like, maybe you do. Maybe the DM's like, oh yeah, you know this person because of this or whatever, right? So they give you a plot hook that you can sink your teeth into as, an introduction for your character. And I think that's great. And you fit a role because you saw an opportunity to blend your character into the group where they were missing some pieces. You're trying to build a puzzle. And
exactly.
I'll just say this. You don't have to play any specific way. I'll tell you right now, I have played in groups that have played with literally nothing but fighters and barbarians. And I'll just say this is, it's kind of difficult if you don't have any spellcasters at all, because then you have very little healing utility, very little crowd control. You can smash things really good. like smashing faces in is not a problem.
DPS,
But-
DPS.
Oh yeah.
So much
Yeah.
DPS. I mean, I'll just tell you, I got a fighter character
Yeah.
I'm playing with right now. He's not in this grouping of characters that I got on screen. He's in a different account, But for these guys, you know, I'll get into these in a second, but the character I'm playing, one of my campaigns I'm doing on Saturday, in fact, with another friend group, he's a Goliath fighter, and he took the Rune Knight background, and that allows him to summon runes written by giants, and he can enlarge himself, and so he's a large creature, and he can command the field of battle just by his stature alone. And that was kind of like a larger than life kind of theme that I was going for, and it was super funny because we figured out that we could add a spell in there that made him even larger. And then another thing, well, maybe we'll figure out how to do it where he can get even larger. Like, he can tango with a freaking ancient dragon in terms of size if he really, really wants to. So it's just things like that where you can think out of the box with this and you don't have to fit any one thing. But if you're going to join a group and you want to be synergistic, maybe you'd think of a character that would fit into that group very well in terms of blend, like Lynx did. If you're just playing the first time with a group of people who've played it for the first time, don't worry about it. Start a character that you want to play, and the DM will make it work. A DM is not here to ruin your lives and make it impossible to play the game. If you are not having fun, you communicate that and they will fix it. But don't worry about trying to make your character perfectly fit in like a puzzle piece that was missing. This is a puzzle you make together, and maybe the pieces don't fit right away, but it's fine. Just smash them together. It'll fit at some point. You make it work.
I want to make a point.
Yes.
Like, you may not like your DM's style. You may not like how the other players in your game play if you're not playing with a bunch of close friends. Like, if you're playing for the first time, you might not like the way they do things, or the style they play, or DM decision. And that's fine too. Not everyone's going to like the same things while playing this game, and that's completely fine. You could just look for another group instead of that group and say, you know, I don't think we're really vibing, like, I'll just go somewhere else. And that's completely fine.
Yep. And in a scenario where you're playing with friends, but maybe one or two people, or maybe yourself, are not having the best of times, I will say this. It's like being in a relationship, except this one, you're just trying not to accidentally kill each other with your fictional characters' very real skill sets. So in that case, communication is so important. If you are not having a good time, talk. Don't just talk to your DM. Okay? You got to talk to the players too. And if you can't come to an agreeable arrangement, maybe that's not a great setting to play in, and that's okay. Like Lynx was saying, you can leave the group and go to another. It's okay. But if you're playing with close friends and you guys can compromise, you can come over any obstacles and you can make it work. Okay. So I've had my fair share of frustrating D&D experiences, and I will say that it has helped immensely, just fine-tuning communication skills and letting people know in no uncertain terms what is wrong with what is happening and why you feel that way, and addressing those very real feelings and trying to come up with a solution that everyone can agree on. Okay? So it's like a little mini therapy session, and we use D&D to be therapist for us. So
Exactly.
not the healthiest of outlooks, all in all, but it works for some.
Yeah.
Don't knock
Not really, but like, I mean,
I
uh,
mean, all right. So
I
role-playing
mean-
therapy has been used for quite a while now, so
right.
like,
So-
treating D&D as your therapy session is not that far of a reach.
It's not. It is not.
Everyone
And
is
there
talking
are,
about this.
and this is getting off on a tangent. I'll reel it back in here in a second, but it really has actually helped people, and I've heard of this in my own life. Friends that I know who have used D&D as therapy, and they know people whose therapists have recommended it and actually use it to help their patients with their therapy. So it is a valid form, and this is why, because communication, interaction, overcoming obstacles together or by yourself. You can play D&D one-on-one with a DM. I've done it. There's a whole lot of moving parts to it, but it's all about communication. And it's all about having a community, and that's the point of D&D, right? Creating a story and creating it with others, because you can't play D&D by yourself. At that point, you're writing a book. That's it. You're just writing a book.
Very true.
All right, so I do want to hear from Kitty really quick, and the reason I'm doing this is because for anybody who's trying to create a character, if you don't have a solid idea yet, I want to hear from people who've built characters, and I believe RJ, you have experience too, and you can kind of chime in here as soon as Kitty's done. Kitty, what is your favorite character that you've built in your career?
Well, it's actually a bit of like bit different
Mic
from like
feedback off.
normal
Mic
D&D. It was
off.
Friday the 13th campaign, actually. It was probably one of the most fun ones I've ever done. I had a character that was like an engineer of sorts, so it was very helpful to be able to like fix things, especially in a setting like that. Because, you know, you're being chased around by a serial killer of sorts, and you've got to help like keep everyone else alive. Although in the end, I
Mic
did end up
feedback
dying
on.
because one
Mic
of my
on.
friends pushed me out of the moving vehicle while I was
What?
driving it.
What kind of character was it? Is this D&D itself, or is this another role-playing game?
Like it's like an offshoot of D&D, I would say.
Okay.
It was like just a normal character, but we all had like a special ability, like something that we were good at.
Okay.
Like for mine, engineer was like what I did.
All right.
I can't
Well,
really
that sounds
remember
like
what
fun.
other people did, but yeah, it was a very interesting one, I would say.
Was it you said it's Friday the 13th style?
Yes.
Oh, like was it like an eldritch horror type game, or,
Yes,
or more realistic?
I got maybe more realistic, I'd say.
Okay.
Although some people definitely did meme around during it.
All right.
We had one person that just would let's just say her intelligence was 2.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, if you had an
Yeah.
intelligence of 2 in D&D statistics, your character would be a puddle of ooze on the ground. You would be a
Yeah.
vegetable. Like in terms of D&D language, 2 intelligence is literally
Yeah.
you're practically dead.
I don't know
that's
how
not
she
good.
survived so long. That's very interesting.
All right,
Mine wasn't the best because I immediately broke my ankle in the beginning.
Ooh, yeah, that's not good. So
That
RJ,
bear trap.
what is your favorite character that you've played in D&D?
My very first character actually,
Okay,
Ooh.
tell us
which
about
is
that
basically
character.
it's a very powerful mountain dwarf barbarian.
Okay, so you said you built a dwarf barbarian.
Yep.
All right, so that very much so sounds like
and-
something out of a fantasy book that we might all be familiar with.
Basically straight from D&D.
Yeah, that actually sounds like Bruenor. So
Yeah.
that's a really interesting character build. Now, barbarians, very much so, Hulk smash type of character.
Yeah.
It kind of goes with the name.
Yeah.
It's kind of obvious, but you can actually do offshoots of barbarian, and you can do things that actually are somewhat inherently magical, or you could do things that just your character is the Hulk and they just Hulk out. They rage on everything. So
Yeah.
we'll get into subclasses in a bit, but yeah, that's the kind of character that would build. That's awesome. Who else has experience in D&D that might want to share? Anybody else in the group that would be able to share a character build they've done or have thought about doing?
I mean, I've thought of probably many characters in my time, but one thing I do want to say, I don't know if you're going to talk about this, or we're going to, but we're talking a lot about like, oh, your class and all that. One thing I do want to say after watching a lot of D&D that, well, class and what you choose and all that matters. One of the things that matters just as much is like the personality and who the character is, backstory, origin. I'm sure we're going to talk about
Yep.
that, but like, make sure that is something that you like really like something that's interesting. Like, one idea I had for a night guy, which I might end up doing here, is like he was a rich kid, and then like his parents were killed, he got thrown onto the streets, and then he was just brought up and saved by this knight, and that was the example, and he just wanted to be everything that that knight was, and even if he wasn't, you know, if he isn't good at being a knight, he
Beautiful.
still tried to be a knight, you know. That's a character
Oh,
idea I had, but
Lord.
you know, that backstory,
Lord.
forget the class stuff, like that's something that you could be like, oh my god, I'd love to play that and like interact as that person, you know, because
Yeah.
this is a role playing game at its
Yeah.
essence.
Mhm.
That is, yeah, that is
All the
entirely
time.
the point. You're so right. And that's part of what we were kind of getting into before is having a character that you enjoy playing. And a big part of that, yes, is class, but an even bigger part is their story. And I'll read this to you because Morton, he's not in the voice chat, but he's definitely typing in our Discord here. He just
Yeah.
he kind of brought to our attention, you know, he's been playing for a long time and all of his characters had trees fall on them. So not much to speak about their
Yeah.
backstory. But your older brother was a jerk, my dude.
Yeah.
What a way to go, though. What a
Just a
way.
coincidence. Come on.
Oh yeah, total coincidence.
Oh yeah, definitely. Mhm.
Yeah,
He
oh,
was-
okay, I gotcha. So you guys started young. Well, that's funny.
Oh, you want to run away? Unfortunately, a tree has been very old for a while, and its crackled bark will now break and fall on top of your character.
Precisely. Oh geez.
Yeah,
I've-
in one
I've
of the
had
ones that I did, we had an entire forest catch on fire, and there was a stampede going through it at the same time
Oh,
while we were all in
jeez.
there. Yeah, let's just say
Okay.
one of our like spellcasters.
Got a little
Threw out a
handsy with a
fireball?
fireball. Yep.
Yep. I threw a
Fireball.
fireball at
Oh
the
my god.
ginormous creatures that were like unidentified, and then they stampeded at us. The place caught on fire, and then I climbed up a tree, but because my character was like a smaller character, I was able to get up there like quite quickly, and then one of the ones that could fly picked me up and like saved me. A lot of the people died there though.
Right. So
Lost a lot of players there.
that sounds like a darn near TPK, just total party kill.
Yeah,
average
thankfully we
tribal
had
cast.
some with wings, so
Yeah. And I've played in campaigns. In fact, I'll tell you this, my very first character, we went and we did a module, and we'll get in, like I said, character creation in a moment. I'll just tell my bit on the story, my first character, to give more ideas on different types of characters we can build. And then we'll get into it. But the first character I built went into a meat grinder. And
Oh.
what I mean by that is
Oh.
I was a brand new character, never played D&D. Our first campaign was a basic module. It was perfectly acceptable. I believe it was the Mines of something or another. It's a basic D&D 5e. I gotta look it back up. But Mines of Phandelver. Lost Mines of Phandelver. That's what it was. So a very easy module. Very, very easy to learn. It's a lot of fun for beginners. But then we went directly from that immediately into this aptly named module called the Tomb of Annihilation.
oh
Oh.
no.
That should have been
Jesus.
omen enough, but all of us in our naivete were like, hey, this sounds like fun. Great.
Yeah,
we're gonna play that.
definitely.
It does.
Well,
Tomb of
Go
Annihilation.
wrong.
what could go
What are you
wrong?
talking
So,
about? Nothing could ever go wrong there.
there were at least 3 times per person per player where we all should have died. One of us did, and the DM was
Oh.
like starving to give them opportunities to survive, and they're like, go ahead and roll for this check, go ahead and roll for this check. I'm running out of ideas, go ahead and roll for this check. Divine intervention, come on. And they got chopped in half by a trap. We did everything we could,
Mm.
and even so, that DM didn't fudge the rolls, which is perfectly fine if that's what your group agrees on. Sometimes DMs like to play behind a screen because they don't want to give their players the ability to use those numbers against the narrative or against
Yeah.
themselves by accidentally saying, I want all of the numbers to be shown right up front, and then they accidentally get their character killed when the DM gets a hot streak and they start rolling nat 20s for all the mobs and it kills the character. So sometimes you play behind a screen, Sometimes you play out in the open. Use your best discretion, but that's for the DMs. We're talking players. So let's get into the character creation now, which is really what we're here for. So I'm going to transition my screen over here. Talk a little bit about my one of my first characters. He's not on this page, unfortunately, but my very first character was a gold scale dragonborn who could let me see if I can pull up my campaigns. View campaign. Let's pull up this character and I'll just look up the dragonborn. So we let's see. Gold Scale Dragonborn. He was based off of a character from Austin Powers, if you guys are familiar. The character was based off of essentially Goldmember. We're talking everything was about the gold. Everything. And let's see if it, yeah, so Dragonborn. Okay, you can see the kind of image right here. They're lizard folk, but they're more than that. They are a little bit more regal, depending on their origin in D&D. If they're like a black dragon, they spit out acid. Darkness is their friend, kind of thing. Blue is lightning. Then you got there's metallics. There's matte colors. Each one's got its own thing. And I picked gold, which was fire. And then I realized later on that probably wasn't the best race to build a warlock with. So I built a caster with what is otherwise a charismatic, strong character with 0 magical aptitude. But it was fun, and I still was able to play the character, and I still had a good time with him, even though what I initially thought would have been kind of a quirky, like just he loves gold and he's kind of an he's kind of a pain in the neck. At one point, the Tomb of Annihilation actually tweaked a character trait on him and made him a total douchebag. We're talking like he was super greedy. It essentially took his main flaw and amplified it by a factor of like 3, which was he'll do anything for gold. And I kind of lightly played that, and I was doing it, not trying to be disruptive, but that was the point of Tomb of Annihilation is it kind of puts you at each other's throats. If you're really role playing. If you're not, it's not a big deal. But yeah, I played a Dragonborn Warlock. It was my first character, one of my favorites still to this day, and it's because I created a really intricate backstory about their gold scale. They had literally just that was their personality quirk, is that they loved gold, and they would do anything for it. They even made a pact with a deity they didn't even know, just for the furtherance of power, for the ultimate goal of hoarding gold. Dragon. So that was my backstory though. So that's one of the things you can do. Now, character creation, rolling into it. When you get into D&D Beyond, it's pretty much right there. If you're building a character off of a sheet, you can do something like you can look for Dungeons and Dragons. There we go. Dragons free rules. You can look it right up, and it's like one of the first couple of links. You can look in here, and it gives you a kind of a vanilla version of the rulebook, and you can come in here, and you can see all the basic rules for the game. There's a lot of reading. I'm not going to do it, but it tells you all about the different characters that you want to play, and I'll include a link to this in the Discord here. So
I just want to say, I don't think that it's required that you read all that to.
No, it is not. No, it is not. The DM is mostly responsible for creating a narrative for your game. All you need to do is create a character that you like, and the DM takes care of the rest. They introduce you to the world. So, like in here, these are all spells and things like that. And this is a character's leveling tree, and it tells you what kind of spell slots they get and cantrips, and we'll talk about that later. But that's for a cleric. So you can look and read into all this, and you can see how they come up with the numbers and all that if you're doing it manually. That's why I'm bringing this up. If you're doing it with a character builder, like on D&D Beyond, it is so much easier. It is free, and I would have I created a character with paper and pen for my first one, and I thoroughly loved it. Problem was, it was really difficult to quickly look
Yeah.
up spells and change the character on the fly if I needed to, or leveling up and kind of continuing on, because sometimes you'd level up in the middle of
Yeah.
a session. So the best thing ever was discovering D&D Beyond, because you can come on here, create an account, go into characters, and you get 6 free slots that you can use, and you can upgrade to a premium. This account is not, but you can upgrade to a premium and get access to stuff. You can buy all of the books. This is one of the coolest things. You can buy all of these source books, and you do not have to. But the Player's Handbook and the Dungeon Master's Guide are the 2 main ones, and you really can just buy the Player's Handbook if you're just a player, and that's it. And if you're playing in a campaign that has access to all of these materials, it'll unlock it for you. You don't have to own them. I'll show you why.
Yeah.
So
In
one
my
person in the
campaigns-
campaign owns it, and the rest of the campaign on D&D Beyond can see it free of charge.
Exactly. So in the My Campaigns area, you can see I've got a couple of different campaigns. One of them's a testing campaign just for, we have access to all of the books, but we're not using that campaign for anything. So we can just create a random character and then remove it from the campaign, move it to another campaign if we're satisfied with it. I got 2 characters in there, this guy and this guy, actually 3, this guy too. And then, this one right here, and then this one right here. Each one has its own character slots in it. It has its own name because there's different modules they did. This one's an Icewind Dale module. This one is Descent into Avernus. And each one you can see has a different DM. And then, like this one, Indie Dev, this one's Eternal Sin. They have their own stuff. So Indie Dev's going to have different materials than Eternal Sin does. But today, like I said, pure vanilla. So you go into View Campaign. You create your character. First thing you do is name your character. If you're already thinking gender, not cool, whatever. If you don't have an idea what you want to name the character, but you have a character idea for the race and all that, you can skip it. But that's just the first page that it shows up to. And you, as a player, select the content you want access to. So usually it's going to be like,
I, for an example,
Like
like
two
to fill
things.
out the character sheet before I name the character.
what's that?
I like to fill out the character sheet before I name the character. Like I
Right.
fill out the character sheet entirely, and then come up
Whoops.
with a name for them.
Right. And that's actually usually what I do too. So you don't have to name your character right away. That, like I said, that's just the first place it brings you to. These are all settings for based on your campaign. Milestone for leveling, fixed HP, whether your gold has weight. Honestly, you don't really need to focus on much of this. Just do what your DM tells you to do. If they don't know, Google it. Like, you really don't need to worry about this as a player until it becomes relevant after you're done creating your character. The only thing that would really make a difference is the fixed HP and maybe the encumbrance. The milestone is up to the DM's discretion. They'll figure that out. So next is race. You pick a race you want to play based off of a theme that you were already thinking of. If you don't know yet and you're more like, I just know what type of character I want to play in terms of like they're a fighter or a rogue, maybe pick a race that sounds like they'd be good at it. So like a rogue,
Yeah.
that might be like a not a gnome, maybe a gnome, but gnomes I think would be in D&D more of the caster type. But you might pick like a halfling or maybe an elf, something that's got some dexterity or sneaky skills. Those are good races for a rogue if you don't know what you want to go with.
Yeah, with
Now-
a criminal background.
Exactly. And you can even choose your description later and include a background, which gives you different things that you can use, as well as like different skill sets too. We'll get into that. So in here, I mean, I've got Unearthed Arcana unlocked. So you really wouldn't be using playtest content. That should turn it off right there. So yeah, so these are the basic races. You know, dwarves, elves, dragonborns, Aarakocra. I thought those were introduced later with maybe like elemental evil, but maybe I was mistaken. Goliaths, I know these are introduced from something else, but I think they might have included them into the base game. But you got all these different races you can choose from. Knock yourself out. And they will give you different variants as you get more materials, more books. Because Tiefling has like 5 variants now. Let's see, elves have like 6 or something. Dragonborns have a few. Dwarves have a few. So each book gives you more materials to work with. Dwarves have
You
hill
don't
and mountain dwarves. Those are different.
You don't
Read 'em.
necessarily have to choose one of the variants. Like which variant are you going to be? You can just be like standardized regular version of whatever race. Like
Right.
I for an example am playing. I didn't choose which variant I was going to play. I just became a standard tiefling, which, if you include the variants, is a descendant of Asmodeus, for an example.
Exactly. Or you could do one that has a descendant of any number of different archdevils. One of which I believe, I can't remember the name of it, but it's the top layer of hell, Avernus. It's like a fallen angel character, and you could base your tiefling off of that. And you could create your own too. Like you can make a custom background, using maybe a template in here and then kind of refining it just so that you can get the skill sets and stuff that come with the base stuff. But you can tweak it and say, okay, well, this thing applies, but this thing doesn't. Or this thing and this thing go together, whereas previously they didn't. Whatever. So this whole game is about customization. You can do whatever you want as long as your DM agrees that it's passable. If your DM's like, no, that's stupid or whatever. If they're doing that for your background, as long as, if it's not unreasonable to anybody else, then maybe you talk with your DM about, okay, well, let's be fair. Let's come up with a compromise. But usually DMs are very accepting of just like if it's background stuff, and as long as you're not going to be disruptive to the game, they're totally cool with it for the most part. If you are building a character that is like, oh, well, I'm going to give myself a bunch of extra skills, that's usually pretty frowned upon. Yes, this game's about customization, but it is also about playing with other people. And most people like to play by the rules. They don't like just coming into the game as like a god mode. That's not fun for 99% of people. So try not to do that. But let's go ahead and, in this case, let's say, okay, we're going to build a, let's build a fighter. So for a fighter, Goliath would be a really good choice for a starting fighter. They're very strong. They're tough. They have a bunch of passive abilities that give them resistance to damage and things to that effect. Humans are vanilla. We are human. So most people don't like to play as a human. But what they did was they created a variant human, which gets +1 to all ability scores and extra language, and they can do some other stuff with it, and they get a feat of their own choice. We're not getting too much into feats tonight, but just know that you can fine-tune your character. You can make them like a specialized tavern brawler, where they can go in and really just duke out with their opponent, fist style, grapple. They can restrain their opponents. Like they can do a lot of different things like that. Where there's a great weapon master, my Goliath that I play as. He is a fighter with great weapon master as a feat, and that gives him very, very strong. Again, DPS. He hits really hard. He punches things with his sword, more or less. So you can fine-tune your character using a human like that if you don't know where you want to start.
Also, coming up with a character concept is a good idea no matter what you're going to play.
Mhm.
And one of the best examples is this is actually like a D&D like famous kind of story, but apparently this guy chose orc as their race, and then rogue as their class. And instead of putting his skills into dexterity or anything, stealthy, he channeled it all to charisma and intimidation. So he would literally like walk in to a building, and when he was spotted, he would just yell, "You do not see Grog!"
I know
And-
exactly what you're talking about too. I've seen that.
Like, you can do this. Like, just because you're playing a rogue doesn't necessarily mean you have to be stealthy, you have to be dexterous. Like, you can defy the character,
Archetype, maybe.
yes, stereotypes, archetypes. You can defy them to come up with a concept of your own.
Exactly, which is kind of in a way what I was talking about earlier. How when I built my Dragonborn, it was on a theme rather than synergizing with his skill set. He had no business being a warlock. Let's be real here, but he was fun. Another group I play in has a Goliath, a big dumb himbo of a Goliath that has no business being a warlock, and he's in there casting spells because that's what he wanted to do, and he built a character based on that. And I'll tell you right now, the character is a riot. We love playing with him because he's dumb as a box of rocks, but he doesn't need smarts because his god, his patron is what they call it, gave him powers. So he's like, oh, I don't need to be smart to do this, and he just blasts stuff with an Eldritch Bolt. Like, okay, cool. Not sure how that works, but D&D logic. Let's go.
Yeah.
So I'm going to just build a template really quick. I'm going to just go ahead and say we're going to build a fighter as a Dragonborn. We're going to keep the race.
Mhm.
And here's some synergy.
Let's try something weird.
I figured we'd go with simple. We can do another one after.
I want to do something weird.
All right. Well, you create a character in here with something weird, and then you
Yeah,
can
I
show
was-
it after. All right.
Yeah.
So let's all create our characters while we're doing this. I'm just giving you guys ideas. But strength, charisma. All right. Well, maybe this character would be a good paladin if that's an available option in vanilla. I'm not sure if it is. But
Yeah, I think it is.
Okay. So, and the reason being, they're Templars, they're the leaders, they have a need for charisma in that case, but they're also very frontline combat oriented. So,
Yeah, barbarians are also frontline oriented also.
right. But we have options. We don't have to do that because I'm going to build this guy as a
Yeah.
fighter. So, I like gold dragons. We're going to go with a gold dragonborn. All right. So next page. And I'm just going to show you here, Dragonborns get resistance to whatever their background is. So if they're a copper, they get resistance to acid damage. If they're bronze, they get resistance to lightning damage. It's whatever type that they harness for their breath weapon.
Yeah.
Because Gold Dragonborn gets a fire breath
Mhm.
weapon, and it functions differently than acid, lightning, or some other stuff.
Yeah.
The breath weapon is kind of neat, and it levels up with you. It's kind of just like an extra AoE for a character that might not otherwise have any. I'll tell you right now, my Warlock had no need for that breath weapon after like level 6. It was kind of a waste of an action. But if you're a fighter who's like, hey, I'm really good at single target damage, but there's a million tiny things on the field and they're all really, really weak. Well, hey, this Dragonborn meets that need, and I have a single one use per short rest breath weapon that I can just blast a bunch of little stuff. Perfect. Very situational, but it's great for when you need it. And then Draconic Ancestry for their damage resistance, like we already talked about. Then you go to class. So I already leveled this one up to 10 just to show some stuff, but we're gonna rewind, and I'm gonna go and change the. Actually, I'm gonna just delete this so I can do a different one. We're gonna do a fighter, and paladin is an option, but we'll just choose fighter. So fighters, they get a fighting style. And this is not unique to them. This is something that most martial classes get access to. Paladins get it. College of Swords bards get it. Barbarians, I think, might get it. But the point here...
I don't think the barbarians do.
Okay, so the more finesse. So fighters are a little bit more sword and shield.
Finesse.
Barbarians are, I'm going to swing my axe
barbarians
at
are
you.
more deal the
Reckless,
damage.
abandon, ignore, shrug it off, don't need armor, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. That's basically what my character is.
Yeah. So Second Wind is a cool ability. It gives you the ability to restore hit points without a spellcaster or without a healing potion. And you can add your fighter level plus 1d10 of hit points returned to you. It's one of those clutch things. You're not going to use it a ton unless you lack the ability to heal in your party. They also get an ability called Action Surge at level 2, which makes them, they can go faster, they can do more. It's essentially a surge of adrenaline, and they can take more actions on their turn. And here's why that matters so much.
It's like you
where's
swing
my-
your
there we go.
sword, you can use action sword and swing your sword a second time when normally you could not.
Exactly, and this is why it matters so much. Extra attack. So it's further up here. Extra attack at level 5 gives you the ability to take an additional attack when you have taken your attack action on your turn. So an action, if anything is listed as an action, that takes up your main focus. You can do something on the side as a bonus action, but you can only take one action and one bonus action per turn. Same thing with a reaction. Unless something states otherwise, you can only take one of each. This makes it so that when you attack with an attack action, because there's a thing as a spellcasting action or a utility action, an attack action is literally just attacking something with an item or your fists. This character can attack twice, and then in later levels they can attack 3, and then I believe all the way up to 4 times. If I'm not, yeah, 20th level they can attack another 3 times. So at 20th level, a fighter can just sit there and wail on something. 1 attack, 2 attack, 3 attack, 4 attack, action surge, 1 attack, 2 attack, and they can just absolutely drill something into the ground. They don't have the ability for most of their fighting style to use any form of magic. Now, that's not including additional subclasses, that's just the main character. We're going to choose that. Proficiencies. Proficiencies is skills. These are things that your character is good at that aren't necessarily combat related. They can be,
Yeah.
but they don't have to be. So I'm a fighter, and I'm going to be putting my skill points largely into strength, constitution, and dexterity. Strength, obviously, is how hard you can hit things. Constitution is how hard you can get hit without dying.
Yeah.
Dexterity is how well you can avoid getting hit. All right. The other skill types, the other ability types are intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. Intelligence would be maybe understanding how an attack functions. Wisdom is understanding when to use that attack or when to avoid said attack. And then charisma is using your words as an attack, I guess. It wasn't the best of examples. There's better ones, but I think there's one. It's like a fruit salad or something to that effect. I don't know. I'll come up with it later, but that's how they tie in. Okay. The class, proficiencies, choose things that you think your character would be good at just based on what you want them to do for their background and things to that effect. And you know what? I'm going to pause here. Go to description, because this drives me nuts. When you build a character, you're not usually building it from the stats up. You're building it from a character concept. I want to build this character to be a swashbuckling rogue with, you can make it essentially like Inigo Montoya from The Princess Bride. And you can make him, very finesse related. So he might be something like a bard or a fighter. But you have a theme in your head usually before you start building the character. So you would probably want to actually, once you've figured out their race and class, because you already know those two, skip the abilities, skip the class stuff, go to your description and do this first. Because this is, custom background. I already told you guys earlier, you can do that if you come to an agreement with your DM. The base game has a little over a half dozen options here. A lot of the fighters will go for soldier. Soldier is a tried and true, pretty vanilla, but if you don't know what to do with your background, this one works in really well. And the DM can tie it in because it says right here, you know, was your background, were you with an army, a town guard, a militia, or maybe you were a private army or a mercenary army? Okay, there's many different things a soldier could be, and they give different connotations to how you would have behaved with that character. So if you were, you know, a part of the royal guard for the king, you might be a little bit more regal, a little bit more, I don't want to say stuck up, but maybe that's a character you want to build. So if you wanted to build more of a kind of flying by the seat of your pants, loosey-goosey, you might think, okay, well, this guy doesn't quite go and abide by all the rules. Maybe he's a mercenary. Okay? So you can choose different things. It's not just ironed out with the selection of soldier. And you can tie that in its further characteristics moving on. And you can choose your character details too. You can choose their alignment. You can say, well, I'm going to make a mercenary, but he's a soldier of fortune. He's all about, you know, getting the job done and making money doing it. And you could use that as like maybe he's just a bad guy. Maybe he's evil and he'll do anything to get his way. Okay, that'd be chaotic evil. If you're a new character, if you're a new player, do not do chaotic evil. Please don't do chaotic evil for your first character. I played a chaotic neutral for my first character, which is like, I'm not evil, but I'm definitely crazy, and that usually leads to just becoming evil. Okay, so chaotic neutral is as far down that path as you will want to go being a new character, and I strongly discourage that. It is very difficult to play that if you are not that familiar with the game. Avoid chaotic evil at all costs until you are comfortable with the game and the people you're playing with, as well as your ability to adapt. Because if a group you're playing with and you're chaotic evil and you are just absolutely ruining people's times because your character is unpredictable and he's a massive dick, pardon the French, then you're going to need to adapt and you're going to need to change him. And that might mean changing his alignment, or at least not role-playing him as much of an evil character. But for your first character, the lowest I would recommend is neutral. True neutral. It gives you the ability to be flexible in any area, and you can feel your character out as you build them. You don't have to choose whether they're good or evil, or chaotic or neutral. As you play and you interact with your group, your alignment can change, and you can tell your DM, hey, my character is he's definitely more of a goody two shoes. You know, he wants to do right by people, no man left behind, you know, women and children first. He's very chivalrous. He might be a lawful good. He might be a paragon, or he could go the other direction. Hey, you know what, He's not gonna just overtly kill everybody that he sees. He's not like evil or anything, but maybe he's a little unpredictable, a little wily, and you know, he's a free spirit. Okay, well, that might mean he's chaotic neutral. That's not bad. It might not be great depending on the character interactions, but it's not necessarily inherently bad. Chaotic evil or lawful evil. Evil doesn't, I'll just tell you this. Evil does not mean go murder your comrades. This is a huge misconception in D&D when people are starting out. It does not mean I'm going to murder my friends in my sleep. Evil people have friends. I'll repeat that. Evil people have friends. You can look into that however you want. The point is, you don't have to hate the people you're with because their alignment is different. Just because you're in a party with somebody who is chaotic good and you're lawful evil and you're on totally different ends of the spectrum, that's okay. They might have a strained relationship. They might have a unusually amicable relationship. It's up to you guys to decide how you want to do it, and you agree on it on the side. Or you could roleplay it in the game and kind of iron it out. but make sure you communicate. Okay. So that's my bit on alignment. Does anybody want to add anything to that? Anything you thought might be helpful to characters who are trying to flesh out their backgrounds?
I mean, I already did my spiel about that, so.
Right. What about you, Lynx? Oh, you're muted, Lynx.
Oh, sorry, my husband walked in earlier. I muted myself. I'll add to the alignment situation.
Okay.
You said like chaotic evil does not mean you're necessarily going to kill your friends.
Right.
It like chaotic evil means that if you do kill your friends, you won't feel guilty about it. It
Right.
won't tear you apart. Whereas if a lawful good has to kill their friend, they're going to feel extremely guilty about it, no matter what happens. Like even if they're a paladin and they have to execute their friend because their friend did something wrong, they will justify it, but they will feel guilty about it because they're lawful good.
So let's use this in terms of superheroes. I'll use DC as an example. Lawful good, I could easily see that being like Superman. Goody two shoes, does everything by the book, wants to save everybody, wants to be seen as good. They are leaders. They don't have to be, but this guy, he would be, because they're trying to make sure that they do the right thing by others. Okay. Maybe chaotic good. That I think that might be Batman. He doesn't really apply to the rules. He doesn't subscribe to that. He does things his own way, but he does them for the right reasons. They don't really care what other people expect of them as long as the job gets done and people get helped. And then that's all I got, actually. I don't really have any other good alliterations. Who's got another one for me you might want to throw in? Anything?
Chaotic evil would be Joker.
Oh, absolutely. Joker
Yeah,
doesn't
definitely
care.
A lawful evil would be somebody like Thanos, very lawful. evil.
Yes, that's a great way. So chaotic evil, definitely the Joker. Does not care who he hurts, does not care what happens, who gets in his way. He's just literally driven by his impulses. And that's that whole character. Like, he's crazy. That's the whole point. Crazy doesn't mean stupid either. So don't mistake that. Crazy does not mean like, oh no, my character is like, they're so unpredictable, they don't make sense. Well, chaotic, they could actually make a whole lot of sense to that character. There could be a string of logic. They don't necessarily just randomly do stuff. They don't have Tourette's. I mean, they might, but they could very well have a mindset that makes sense to them. But to everyone else, they go, that's freaking insane. How did you get to that conclusion? Chaotic. And then, like you said, lawful evil, Thanos. That's a perfect example because he's doing something. Well, I might even say he's even like a lawful neutral.
Yeah, I was going to say he might be more neutral, but
because he's doing something
know.
that he thinks is good for people. Like good for the everybody, but it's not necessarily, and I just realized the background stopped. I'll fix that here in a second. It's not necessarily inherently evil if you're I don't know what's the best way to put that. Like, just because you kill people doesn't mean you're evil.
yeah. I'm not saying once again that obviously the whole Thanos of what he's doing is right, debate yada yada, but he has his goals and while they may seem morally wrong to some people, they can be sensible to you still and understand
Right.
where he's coming from, which might put him more in the neutral. Which is why it's hard to put him in evil.
So
but
he's kind of a gray area, yeah, and that's actually that's a good thing to
that's
point out.
neutral.
Yeah, that's a good thing to point out because he's a little bit more alignment fluid, because you could see his things in different lights. So that's good. I like that. Lifestyle, I'll just tell you, I'm going to go through these now and kind of get to the nuts and bolts so we don't take too much time on that. Again, mostly just character creation tonight, and then I'll run through a very, very quick combat simulation with a couple of your characters when we get to the end of it. So I'm sure, you know, if you've been playing around with this thing, those who are in here probably have already finished your character. You're just kind of hearing us out and hearing what their points are. But the whole background, I would iron this out first, or at least get an idea. And the cool part is, it gives you suggested characteristics. You do not have to go in here and say, well, I have to figure out my whole character's backstory. That's okay. They'll give it to you if you're like, I don't want to figure it out, but hey, this sounds cool. Because you can be like, hey, you know, my character's always polite and respectful. Maybe he's a wounded soul. I've lost too many friends and I'm slow to make new ones. Maybe he's a little closed off.
Yeah.
And then some of these, again, you do not have to abide by these. It says that this is for good aligned characters. You do not have to abide by that. You can make an evil character that, again, thinks that what they're doing is for the greater good, the defense of others.
Yeah.
Thanos thought that what he was doing was the greater good. And yet, here we are with essentially that definition is to lay down our lives for the defense of others. Well, I mean, he's over here justifying the defense of those who would otherwise survive the culling as like, I'm defending their futures because otherwise we're all dead. You know? So again, you don't have to strictly abide by this, but it does give a good idea of where to start. It's a good template. So go through that, play with those, figure out what your character is going to be like. And if you want to change it later, you can always do that. Very fluid.
Yeah.
Lifestyle, again, not important. I personally do not do this because this is for advanced D&Ders who are like, you know, hey, we need to actually figure out how we're going to survive. Like how are we, you know, they go day by day and they're counting up how much money they have versus their, you know, their tasks ahead of them. Where are they going to sleep? What are they going to eat? I don't bother with that. I don't worry about it. It's too much to keep track of, especially for new players. So don't worry about that starting out. Faith, it's a role play thing. You're probably not familiar with a lot of the D&D gods. If you haven't played before, don't worry about it. You don't need it.
Yeah.
You can describe your character based on what you think they look like. That's pretty straightforward. Gender,
Unless
age,
you're going to
height.
become a cleric, faith doesn't really play into anything in role play.
It can, depending on the group you're playing with, because I mean I had that character that died in my meat grinder campaign. They tried a divine intervention. I don't believe they were a cleric. So it could tie in if you want it to. It doesn't have to. But yeah, in terms of actual function in the game mechanics, yes, Lynx is totally right. Pretty much cleric is maybe paladins and maybe warlocks are the only ones that would functionally use a faith mechanic. And then the warlocks would actually be a completely different thing. It's a patron rather than faith. Personality traits, you can pretty much assume that all of this is going to come from up here, and you can write in your own. So it has like, watch.
Yeah.
If I select maybe these first two, or the first one and the third one, okay. So it added them to my personality traits. This is why I love D&D Beyond. Just plug and play, and then you can edit the traits.
Yeah.
Go in here and type in another one. All right, cool. So we've got, I'm always polite and respectful. I've lost too many friends and I'm slow to make new ones, and I'm a stinky head. Okay, it works. All right. And then notes is anything else. This is stuff you would edit usually after you've encountered stuff in the campaign and you want to remember for later. But you can even put in a custom backstory. It's all there. You can edit it how you want.
Yeah.
Doing it.
And then this right here is for the function. Up here is very much so the template standard. This is how everything starts. We already went over that, but there's going to be drop downs for a lot of these backgrounds, and some of them are a little bit more meaningful. This one is just what
Yeah.
kind of, because, you know, it's boring in the barracks. You got to have a game to play to pass the time. What are you proficient with? What games would you be good with? And, you know, I
Yeah.
think it even tells you pick a game like you're going to actually have this on your person. And you can maybe use
Yeah.
this in a tavern. Something maybe
Yeah.
you could use with an NPC and bet on. I've done that.
Mhm.
In fact, I've done that with my warlock, and he had some sort of like telekinesis or something. Or no, he found a die, and it was a magical die. It was like the charlatan's die. Yeah, it's exactly what it was. Charlatan. It's not an option here, but it's an option in Elemental Evil, I think.
I
But the
wanna point
charlatan's
out
die.
something. I want to point out something. If one of your, for DM's perspective, if one of your players is choosing like you did, 3 dragon anti-set
Right.
or a dice set, and you're not incorporating that into the gameplay, and instead, like if, for an example, if your player chose a 3 dragon anti-set, and you're forcing them in the role play, you're saying, oh, the person you're trying to play 3 dragon anti-set doesn't want to play, he wants to play cards. That's just bad DMing, in my opinion.
I agree. I actually would
Yeah.
immediately agree with that because, you know, a DM can usually be flexible with it. And if a DM says, well, they're going to play this, well, not only is my character not proficient with that, they don't even have that. Maybe they never even played it. And it could be, you know, well, that could be a thing where they say, okay, you know, this table's got this table's got this, and they give the player some agency in choosing the game they want to play. Player doesn't have to be like, yeah, I'm gonna play this game. Now, it could be where the DM says, okay, of the available types of chance games built into D&D, maybe he rolls a die and it picks it at random, and then it's not taking away the agency of the player or the DM, because the DM doesn't know what it's going to be either. It's up to chance, and some people like playing like that, which is, I think, acceptable. But if the DM, like Lynx was saying, is picking something in a sense to thwart the players who otherwise have things in their background that they could be using, it's not about players versus DM. Everybody's building the story together. The DM just helps fine tune, or rather, I'm sorry, set the tone, and the players run with it.
Exactly. So,
And
Yeah.
then along the way, they are flexible.
imagine a D&D session as a improv session, and the DM as the director of the improv troupe would be the best option to explain it in general.
Right. So let's choose another one really quick, and just to give you another idea. So the soldier had the skill proficiencies. This is why I say start with your description. You're going to be basing your whole character on this, and sometimes it'll already give you skill proficiencies. So you would have them in your class build, but now athletics is not available. It's not there. Description already has it. Intimidation is also not there. Proficiencies, and you might be able to select it, but it says right here, athletics, soldier, intimidation, soldier. So it is here, but you don't, I'm sorry, I couldn't see it earlier. I'm blind. They are here, but they say that they're already occupied, so you don't need to waste your slots on these. This is why D&D Beyond is so nice. I guess I'm just advertising for them at this point, whatever. But pen and paper, you might not catch this. Whereas on here, it tells you. So that's why I start with the description. So athletics, intimidation, they're good with vehicles on land. And then a folk hero. That's what one of my characters is. He likes talking about his exploits, and he always embellishes. I mean, he's a liar, pants on fire, always telling people that he did more than he did. Well, my party survived because of my heroics. That kind of guy, you know. He's harmless, kind of amusing, maybe a little annoying. But you can straight up just play a character as, you know, the strong silent type who goes around saving everybody, and everybody knows who they are, and you know, they kill monsters and tyrants that threaten the common folk everywhere. Okay, They're like a champion of the people. They have animal handling and survival. Think of it as like horseback riding and, you know, like Aragorn. He survived in the wilderness. He was a ranger, right? So those could go hand in hand with a ranger subset. They work with anything. Those skills will come into play in most campaigns. And then vehicles land, same thing as the soldier. If you want to be a noble, you can be a background for a noble. They have history and persuasion as their skill proficiencies. You can choose a gaming set proficiency, and you can choose another language. So iron them out. You know, choose what you want based on the character you want to build, and then you go to your class and do it. So we're doing a soldier because we're a fighter. The gaming set doesn't matter. Let's see. Acrobatics might be a good one. A fighter, you're really going to want to usually lean into their skill sets if you're not really sure what to do. But if you want to build them a certain way, you can go against this. It's perfectly fine. I will tell you right now, most of the campaigns I've played in have used acrobatics, athletics, insight, perception. Like, these are some of the main heavy hitting skills. Perception is easily one of the most important ones. So even if you're not proficient in it, it might be a good idea to take it because it determines how well you notice things. Which, if you're dungeon diving and you're looking for treasure or you're trying to keep an eye out for enemies, that's a good one to have. Even if you don't have your other skill points into it. Here's your fighting style for a fighter. You can go in and, you know, choose 2-weapon fighting. You know, that might be like 2 swords, you know, a sword and a dagger. You could do dueling, which I believe is a single weapon in one hand and nothing in the other. So think of like a fencer who has their hand behind their back and they're just stabbing with the one sword. Think of it like that. Or Puss in Boots, if you're into Shrek. And then I don't know why that was the first thought that came to mind. Yeah, he's a dueler. It's Puss in Boots. Okay. Defense. Good with a shield, or I'm sorry, good with armor. Gives an extra +1 to your armor. Archery. You can build a fighter who's actually more proficient with bows than they are of close combat weapons. Surprise, surprise. D&D, you can customize stuff. So you can choose feats that make you really good at ranged weapons too. Let's see, great weapon fighting is, you know, your great giant great sword, your double-bladed axe, that kind of stuff. Giant mauls.
Yeah.
So it's all pretty self-explanatory. And then you get all your other abilities as you level up. So as you get to level 2, you get action surge, and then, you know, at level 3, you can choose a martial archetype, which is your subset. And I'll show you guys what that means, because every character class gets this. So martial archetype, and for a fighter, you can choose champion, battlemaster, or eldritch knight. In here, because we only have the vanilla, we don't even have the player's handbook unlocked, the only option available is champion, which I'll tell you right now isn't actually a bad one because of this. Their critical is not just on a 20, it's also on a 19. And that comes up more often than you would think. And being able to crit on a 19 gives your character, essentially, you've doubled your ability to do more damage just by increasing it by 1.
Yeah.
Great ability to have. You get all this other stuff, extra attack, but the fighter, honestly, they're very, very cut and dry, very vanilla, unless you choose an archetype like Eldritch Knight, which I don't have available here, but they get access to spells. If you are building a caster, that's a different conversation. We'll jump into that and kind of touch on that because we only need to talk about spells at that point.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much it for class and description and race. The only thing you're going to need to do here is abilities and equipment. Abilities is the most important thing for building a synergistic character. If you're building a roleplay character, who cares? Like, you know, right? You know, my gold scale dragonborn, he was not the best of warlocks. I could have done way better with him, but he was fun to play. He was a strong warlock. There were several times where I got to go, you know, swing a sword that I wasn't proficient with, but I still got to hit harder because I had higher strength and my hit roll was better. Okay, that was surprising to me. It worked out. Our Goliath. I say Warlock a lot because it's one of those starkly contrasted character types that people like to go with without picking a character race that's synergistic with it, because Warlocks are so funky. If you're playing a new character, I actually don't recommend Warlock for your first character because they are kind of funky. It'll ruin you for other spellcasting classes. You'll have to relearn how to do it. I would play a sorcerer, a wizard, or maybe what's a more sorcerer, wizard. What else? I think those are the two main ones, right?
Cleric.
Cleric.
Cleric's the other main one. And then they got other stuff too, but Paladin is another one, but he's like a fighter caster combo. Same thing with Bard. Actually, Bard's one of them, but you can go combat oriented with them. And all that. So your ability score should reflect what your character class is good at. So for mine, we're going to go with standard array, and I'm going to just vanilla these out. Standard array just gives you a template of 15, 14, 13, 12, 10, and 8. And you can apply these to your scores, and they will give you a modifier based on that. So as an example, my strength is already +2 because of my racial bonus for being a dragonborn. Well, if I give him a 15, watch this. It gives me a +3 modifier. But watch what happens when I go to a 14. It does not change my modifier. Here's why. A score only changes your modifier when it reaches an even number. So if you have an 11, a 13, a 15, a 17, a 19, a 21, whatever, those are in between numbers. You need to get to those numbers if you want to progress past them. It's really just it's a gatekeeper stat point. That's all it is. It's not meant to be functional. So even numbers are where you want to be, and you want to try to synergize with that as best you can. If you don't care and you're more about roleplay, then ignore everything I just said. It don't matter. That's actually not true. If you play a character who's very roleplay oriented, especially if they're a charisma based, but you play a roleplay character who wants to talk to people a lot, and you're putting, your lowest points into charisma, and you have a negative modifier, you might actually be setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah, I say, if you roleplay, you can throw things out the window as long as you're enjoying what you're doing. But at the same time, keep in mind, if your enjoyment comes directly from whether or not your character is good at something, don't build a stupid character. Don't listen to me. Build it proper. Build it based off of whatever your character's class, based on this, says it should be.
Yes.
So, as an example, a cleric, you can see right here, their saving throws are wisdom and charisma. That is a really, really good indicator of what your character should be good at. Okay? If you want to build a charismatic fighter, you put your points into charisma. Okay? But if you're trying to be synergistic, I'm just telling you what to do with that. So, fighter probably doesn't need a lot of charisma. That can probably be my lowest stat as a fighter if I'm trying to go combat oriented, and that's what I'm showing you. Strength, highest, I would say 15, just knock it right out. Because even though it's at an odd number, I only have to put 1 point into it later to level it up to the next modifier. So it's easier to get to later. Constitution, I have a plus nothing in that, so it's just based off of the con modifier I put here. So 14, 10 is the baseline. It's anything above or below 10 determines what you get. So if I'm at 10 on intelligence, I'm at a 0. If I am at a 9 on charisma, well, it went below 10, so I lost that even number, and now I'm at -1. However, I won't go below. I won't go past that until I go past 8. So if my charisma was at 7 suddenly, I'd be at -2. So 9 is not terrible. You can upgrade from that, not a big deal. Wisdom for a fighter, not that important. I can probably put that at a 12. And dexterity is one of my higher stats as a fighter. I say higher, it's on the higher half. 15, 13, 14 should be all on strength, con, dex. Your lower one should be in charisma, wisdom, intelligence. The higher one of the low stuff should probably be wisdom, because a lot of things require wisdom. Like
Yeah.
gameplay
I also
mechanics,
wanna-
a lot of things require that.
I also want to point out deciding these attributes may seem like it's too much or like too much maths essentially, but you only decide this part once.
Exactly. And
Like,
then you
do it
can
at the
add
beginning
stuff
and
later.
then exactly, and then the gameplay itself is more about getting into your character rather than maths.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Don't
So-
get
if you're
too stuck up on
intimidated
this.
by what's going on here, don't be. Just like
Yeah.
you only do this once and then you move on from it, essentially.
Exactly. So that's why I'm spending a little bit of time on this, and kind of walking through what each area does and why you should put points into it if you're doing a certain thing. If you
Yeah.
know if you know, based on what we described, how these tie in to a type of character. You want to build a swashbuckler, dexterity and con. You can get hit and you can dance around. You want to build a brute force, strength and con. You want to build a wizard. Wizards are very book oriented, intelligence and probably wisdom. You look at your spellcaster stats and it'll tell you wisdom and charisma for a cleric. Okay, dump those points into those two as a default. Makes it easy. What's up?
If you take a look at mine,
Mhm.
like
Could it-
if you pull up my character here through
Yep.
up on your screen, you can
Uh,
actually see what I have done.
Yep, right here. So we'll check out RJ's
What?
character. We got Thorder Iron Fury. You are using, it looks like a barbarian.
Yep.
Barbarian dwarf. And you can see his stat points right here. Strength, dex, and con. Which I don't know how you got them all that high. I'll ask you about that in a moment. Because you must have done a roll for your character, I assume.
Yeah, I did.
Okay, so that's actually something good to point out. You can do a standard array, like I was doing, or you can roll dice for your character. I'll tell you right now, these are not normal numbers. They're actually pretty high. But it depends on the campaign, depends on how your DM has you do it. If you don't
Yeah.
know any better and your DM doesn't know any better, don't roll. It might mess your game up. It might make one character way overpowered, and it might make another person's character really derpy. So I strongly recommend for your first character just doing standard array, or point by. Just keep it simple.
Yeah, we're doing a point buy system in our game.
So either one of those is fine. Rolling for them is probably more advanced. Just a heads up. But this is a good example on building a first level character. You can see that he put his skills into athletics. What was your inspiration for doing deception, by the way?
Well, I literally just don't like being very honest with everything.
You like being a little bit
That's-
side eye?
Yeah, because my character's background is he was a criminal, so he doesn't trust anybody.
I gotcha. All right. Hopefully that zoomed in on the stream for a little bit. Yep, we're good. Let's see. So the background you can see here, he chose criminal, spy, whichever one you want to go with. In D&D Beyond, you can click on stuff and you get a side window here to kind of scroll through things to kind of blow up the window and show you more of what's going on. Depending on the window, you might not need it because I can scroll through here and see pretty much everything he's got here. Not a big deal. But that's also how you edit stuff too. You can pull this up, and if there's a
Yeah.
spot to edit, you can write it in those areas. So anyway, you can see here he's chaotic good. We already kind of went over those earlier. All of his personal stuff. I blow up at the slightest insult. Very Hulk smash. Very don't make me angry. Slow to trust. Okay. So, he's got his bonds and flaws. Something important was taken from me and I aim to steal it back. He's a criminal. That's a great flaw. It's very, very good for, building a holistic character. Let's see what else we got here. We got his flaw. If there's a plan, I'll forget it. If I don't forget it, I'll ignore it. That goes right hand in hand with being chaotic. Throw the plan out the window. I'll do it just how I feel at the moment, kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So very fly by the seat of the pants. So that's a good example of being thematic with your character. So that's a very good thing to bring up, RJ. All right. Let's see. And then the other thing, let's see, features and traits. Barbarian, like we already kind of went over how to build your character, so I'm not going to get into all this. Just read about what your character does and see if it's something you want to roll into. Try to level them up a little bit ahead of time to see if certain paths are what you're going to want to take. He went with 2-weapon fighting. It looks like in your first levels you're not going to have proficiency with it, but at later levels you will potentially, depending on what you put your points into.
Yeah.
So I see what you're doing. So at your first level, it might be good to do a great axe so you get the full synergy. But if that's your theme, that's your theme, All right. I'm not editing your character. Never mind. Let's see, collections. We're going to go to my campaigns again. And then I'm going to show, when it loads, the last part is equipment. So let's see. I did not finish this character. Abilities. So like I said, strength, con, dex, intelligence, wisdom, charisma. We kind of put them in an orientation that makes sense for the character. Moving on. Equipment. So here on D&D Beyond, it actually tells you straight up, here's what you can start with. The rule book tells you, the rules in here tell you what you can get for starting equipment when you start an adventure. It's a lot of reading. It's going to take a while to find it if you don't know where to look. D&D Beyond does it for you. You don't even really need the book for a lot of stuff. This thing's just gold. So you come in here, you can choose equipment or gold. I strongly encourage equipment. Gold does not give you enough to buy useful equipment early on. I think if you go for gold, it gives you a randomized number. Yeah, so it's 5d4 times 10. Okay, randomize. You get 140 starting gold. That will not buy you a lot. Just telling you right now.
Oh.
It might buy you a thing of armor, or it might buy you some gear and some weapons. You ain't getting both. It's that or it's going to be pretty crummy. If you want a martial weapon and armor, good luck. Always go for equipment, in my opinion. And then you can sell the other stuff you don't need, because apparently you can choose a bunch of stuff and you might not want all of it. So fighter, chainmail. All right, I need some armor. Leather armor. If I'm going for like a ranger, like an archer, I should go for this one. Leather armor with a long bow. But you can also go, well, I'm going to be tough and I'm going to be able to shoot things like crossbow. Boom, there you go. Let's see. But I'm going to go with a hack and slash, martial weapon and shield, sword and board. Okay. So we're going to go with, let's say, a martial weapon. Let's say longsword. So this is a versatile weapon. I know you can't see it here, but this one's a one-hander or a two-hander, and it changes the strength of the weapon. So I'm going to use it in one hand. I think it's only going to be like a 1d6. And then you get a shield, which gives you a +2 to your AC. And then you can choose from this, let's say a light crossbow or 2 hand axes. I think it makes more sense to have a light crossbow with some bolts. Just as a, I can't reach my target, here, let me pull this thing out and shoot it. An explorer's pack or a dungeoneer's pack. I would recommend looking at both of these and thinking, what would my character pick? They're both pretty similar though. Dungeoneer's pack is, food rations, some climbing pitons or pitons, whatever you call those. Water skin, 50 foot of rope. That's usually pretty useful. Or you can do an explorer's pack. Torches. Dungeoneer's pack is also going to have torches, but you got, tinder, a mess kit, 50 feet of rope. It's almost the same. It really is. This one's just got like a crowbar hammer. It doesn't have the bed. It doesn't have the mess kit. So just keep that in mind depending on how you want to play it for your campaign. I'll just tell you, when we're running around doing long rests, we don't even think about having a bed or a mess kit. Like we never think about it because we don't care. It's not important to our campaign. Let's see. Starting equipment. This is based on the soldier background. That's actually good to know, because you get fighter starting equipment and you get soldier starting equipment. So you get one based on your class and your background. So a pouch containing 10 gold, that's pretty standard for a lot of these. Common clothes, they check them automatically because they should be pretty much automatic. So if you're going to roll some dice because your character is good at throwing dice from the options you picked earlier, do that. And you choose maybe like a dagger or a this is right here, I'll just tell you, in the soldier background, this is a sentimental piece. This is not necessarily meant to be functional, but if you have a sentimental dagger, it's still a dagger. So I might pick that. Functional and a sentimental piece. That's me being reasonable, logical, whatever. Play it how you want to play it. This other stuff, unless your DM tells you otherwise, you don't need the rest of this. You can worry about that later. We add starting equipment, and we're ready to roll. So let's take a look at our characters, make sure everybody's got it all down here. Let's see. Campaigns. So we got 4 characters in here.
Still have a couple questions about equipment.
Oh, yeah. Throw it at me.
For my character, I mean, obviously, there's like stuff that it gives you, but I was just wondering, like, if I could have full plate mail to start, because that's kind of how I worked it with the story, and I don't know if that's something that you're usually able to start with.
No, that is actually a really good question to ask. Okay, so your starting equipment is pretty like it'll spell out what you can do. Which, by the way, your hit point is fixed in the very first page. You can usually leave that as is unless your DM tells you otherwise. So my hit points are 28 based on my modifiers over here, plus all that. So I'm just pointing that out because I kind of forgot to talk about it. But you go, when you're doing your equipment, when you're giving yourself your starting equipment, I've already given myself, but if it is not listed in your starting equipment as a level 1, logically you would not have access to it. So here's how I would kind of figure that out. Because in the basic rules, let's see if I can find equipment really quick. Let's see if I can find just plate. Mail? Plate. Armor?
Search armor.
Oh, I just had it. All right. So that's crafting. I was trying to see if I could find it in terms of like buying it. I don't see it. Well, let me just tell you this: plate armor ain't cheap. It's like $1,000 in terms of gold.
Mm-hmm.
And if you choose gold over equipment, you can only get a maximum of 5d4. So 4 times 5, 20 times 10. You can only get 200 gold. So even if you went for the gold option, you'd be wildly underfunded to start with plate armor. So it might be one of those like you themed it for your character. They're going to be, very tanky. They're going to take a lot of hits. You build up to it though, because this is not necessarily about, hey, my character's going to start as a finished character. A lot of the times this is the direction I'm going to go with the character, and we're going to get there along the way. So you might not get plate armor for the first 6 to 8 levels, but reasonably I would say about like level 8, you should have enough money to buy one, if not make one, because I believe in crafting it's like half of what it would normally cost. But you could buy other armors that build up on the way too. So plate armor, I believe, gives you a pretty decent AC. I think plate's like, 18 to 20?
Yeah. That's what I was asking, because it is not a
yeah.
light thing to have. Or
Right.
like,
So
it's just
we're
not a
going
starting item, but yeah.
add items. Let's take a look at plate. Armor,
Yeah.
magical proficient. We're just going to look at, because I believe, no, not scale mail. Splint armor is the second best. That one you could buy, but it would take every penny you had to get it in the beginning. But that is only one armor class below plate, which is right here. And that's what that one's 18. Oh, it's 1,500. There we go. It's even more expensive. So crafting an item usually cuts the cost in half, just to let you know ahead of time. But that's way later. Anyway, armor class 18 is really, really high for a level 1 character. If you get that at level 1, you know what you're doing. You've built a character
Right.
based on armor class. And usually you're going to get that in the early game, maybe like maybe you start with like, where is it at? Heavy armor chainmail 16, and then sword and board gives you another +2, which is actually what I have. So I'll just show you. So my AC,
half plate. Half
So,
plate. You
um,
had it there. I want to look at it.
okay, hold on.
Actually, I can just look this up myself. I can look this up myself. Hold on.
So I equipped a shield, my sword, and my armor, and I'm gonna scroll up, and you see now I did have 11. Now I have 18 armor class, and you can click on it. It tells you where you got it from. So chainmail and shield. However, chainmail comes with a disadvantage on stealth checks, which means you roll 2d20 and take the lowest. So that is not good if you want to be a sneaky character. Heavy armor is not a good way to go for sneaky characters. Which
Yeah,
kind of
no.
is obvious, but at the same time, it's not. So, all right. But yeah, that's character creation. I think we kind of hit all the points. Anything you guys gonna want to add on basic stuff really quick? All right. So let's take a look at, like I was saying, the other characters that we were building. So we already took a look at RJ's character. And let's see. So let's see. All right. Who is Robin Haldir?
That is me.
All right. So let's take a look at your character. See what we got. All right, so this looks like you rolled, or no, that looks standard array, right?
Yep.
All right, so you got a wood elf rogue, very thematic. Rogues usually work well with elves and halflings. Dex and intelligence are your two main saves, which is, you know, you got a +1 in intelligence, and you got Dex as your main. That's good. Let's look at your description. All right, so rustic hospitality. Why don't you give us some input on how you came up with this character?
It's basically just an elven Robin Hood.
Which kind of, you know, kind of obvious, but you know,
Kind of
for
goes with the
whatever
name.
reason, I didn't quite put my finger on that one until you said it. All right, so pretty straightforward then. You're very charismatic leader type character, but also very good at what they do. So athletics, you have expertise. Is that a rogue thing? You're level 1, right?
Yeah, I'm level 1. I
So-
think it's just
Rogues get expertise at level 1, right?
I'm guessing.
I mean, if you selected it.
I think so.
I know bards get it as well. That's why I was asking. So yeah, you got thieves' tools. You got proficiency with land vehicles, woodcarvers' tools. The thieves can't. I'm assuming that is the more or less like code for the thieves guild kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
code language.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
there was probably an area where you can select more languages because you should be able to speak common. So I don't know why that's not on there, but it's pretty understood you can speak common. Advantage against being charmed and magic can't put you to sleep. I believe that is a elf trait.
Yes,
wood
that is
trait
an
too?
elf trait.
All
No,
right.
that's elf. That's both. That's all kinds of elf traits.
Yep, it's actually right up in here. So Mask of the Wild. This is, I believe, another one for the elf, if I'm not mistaken. Blade of Foot. Base walking speed increases to 35 feet. I believe that might be Rogue. You can tell I don't play rogues. But proficiency trance. Okay. So yeah. This is an elf trait. This means they only have to sleep for 4 hours a day rather than 8. All right. So I mean, you got a pretty well built character. It's a good place to start. Let's see campaigns. Who else we got? Who is Knight?
That is me. That is him. Knight.
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 It's kind of the guy I pitched you guys before. I just decided I like the idea, so I'd go with it. So
All right, so
And you choose his name to be Knight.
Yeah,
yeah,
right.
he doesn't. It's the only name he goes by.
All right, so you haven't
Understandable.
equipped anything, but yeah, you got the same kind of starting equipment that I had because it looks like you went with a fighter. You know, so it's going to look very, very similar. Your HP is really low though, so you might not have selected fixed. I would
No, I
recommend
didn't.
going back and changing that just to make sure that that's what you did. Because mine was 28.
Okay.
There's no reason yours should be 12.
Got you.
Wait.
Lemming.
Oh no, mine's at level 3. I'm dumb. I was gonna say, wait a minute. I was gonna say 12 is actually reasonable. Wait, what am I on about? At level 1.
Lemon.
What's up?
Lemon. Can you add me to the campaign so I can show you my character creation?
The campaign link is in the D&D text chat.
Okay.
Yep.
Let me see.
You might have to scroll up a tiny little bit, but it's the link
It's there.
under the @ for the role-playing games role. There's a picture, and then scroll down to a tiny bit. It's right there. It says
Got it.
campaign/join. So you can plop your character right on in there, and then let's see who else. So we got Knight. I need to turn mine down to make it level. Wait, no, I was in the right place the first time. So I know that. Oh shoot, hold on. My Valheim background is.
Done playing.
Yeah.
Yes, there we go. So let's get that looped. Oh, I unchecked looped. That's why. Dear, I'm a dummy. All right, so characters. We've got Fix. That was yours, right, Lynx?
Yes.
All right. I'm gonna change mine really quick. Turn it back down because I was just doing an example and I kind of forgot to turn it back down.
This is really annoying.
All right, 12 HP. Ah, there we go. That makes so much more sense.
Yeah.
All right, so let's take a look. Knight. Let's see. Yours, like I said, was very much like mine. Your description.
Louder.
Rich to wretched to knight, which you already kind of told us earlier.
Yeah.
So you just put it into play and you built a custom background based on that.
Yeah.
So, you know, knightly honor, code, however, it seems illogical. I'm doing it my way. I like it. Empathy and care for everyone from the poor to the rich, seeing as I've been in many places during my life. So I know you wrote these out yourself, and that actually is really cool. Selflessness is something I'm abundant in because of my empathy and code, even though we're doing it my way.
Yeah.
Ideals, the lives of people he meets and the people around him come above all else. So he's very Paragon-esque, you know, wants to be the savior of the people. Maybe not as like a look at me, but just as a I can't stand to see other people get harmed around me, that kind of thing. And then, you know, flaws, I'm very indrawn with a lot of emotions, seeing as the past has not been kind. I have trouble letting go of life or people when it seems necessary because life is valuable. These are very, you know, that's very well thought out, and that is actually really cool to see a custom camp or a custom background, because we've been seeing the cookie cutter ones, but you can easily write your own if you've got the attention and the patience for it. Not everybody does. A lot of people like the cookie cutter, but if you want to, it's a perfectly fine way to go too. And then the equipment, actions, all that, it's the same as my character, so we can feasibly just move on from there. But don't forget to equip your character in D&D Beyond. I'm not going to do it for you. I'll let you do it. Be familiar with it. But that's how you actually change your stuff. And here's the cool part. When you are in your character and you have your sheet and you're ready to go and all that, you can, I'm not able to do it on yours, but there is a way to roll the dice for your character.
Yes.
So I'll just pull one of mine up. In D&D Beyond, you can literally roll for your character's abilities. Let's pull up my bard. So I've got my short swords, Thunar and Thunar. I can, you know, roll to hit, and I rolled a nat 1. That's a fantastic example. So maybe I threw my swords away when I rolled the hit. You know, oh, Butterfingers. But that's how you can do it on D&D Beyond. You can just click a button, and when you go to maybe you got advantage. The DM says something happened. Maybe your target is prone, and they're easier to hit for a melee weapon. You get advantage on the roll. So you right click on it and click advantage.
Yeah.
And then you can roll the die. I don't know why I didn't do it. Hold on. Advantage. Why is it doing that? Oh, I need to roll it. There we go. So you select the option and then you roll. And then it pulls up the window on the side. You can minimize it as you need to. But it tells you right here
Yeah.
which one of those two it picks. So it picked 11 out of those two rolls. Plus 7 equals 18. That's the total. And then once you hit, if you've confirmed that with your DM, which by the way, ties break, you can then roll your damage and it'll tell you what your damage is. You can always do it with traditional dice, and I recommend it for your first time. It's tactile, it feels good. Also, I'm a dice goblin, don't judge me.
Nice goblin.
Yes, I have a lot of dice. All right, so and then we'll
Oh,
take a look.
I'm also a dice goblin. Also.
All right.
Talking about
Uh,
being dice goblins.
Right. Okay, and we got 2 more characters that just jumped in, but we'll take a look at Samine. So Samine is a female high elf sorcerer. Now, who is Samine's? I believe this would probably be. Oh, he didn't stick around. Oh, he had to go. That's all right. So we'll talk about his character. We'll just kind of put it on the stream, and then he can.
Are you talking
jump in
about
later.
Samine?
Is that yours, Kitty?
Yes.
Or okay, oh, that is yours. So
I
I thought
figured
that
that.
was.
And I can't. Yeah.
02.
Yes.
So Samine is your character. All right.
Yes.
So go ahead and give us a bit of background on Samine and how you came up with that character.
Well, she's like a high elf noble type. Chaotic good, I would say. She kind of like views herself above others, I would say,
Okay.
but like not too terribly. Like,
Maybe a little snobbish, but
That makes sense.
not to the point
Yeah.
where it's detrimental to the the story and the people around.
yeah, exactly.
I gotcha. So like you might hear like a backhanded snide remark once in a while, but otherwise she's functional with others.
Yeah.
All right, so that's good.
Yeah.
And obviously, you've got your bonds and your flaws all based off of that character's background. So, secretly believe that everyone is beneath me, but it's secretly, so it's not something you're just sharing with the world. Yeah, I like it.
Yes.
I like it.
Like she thinks that you can see it in her eyes, but she's not gonna like come out and say it to you.
Right.
She's
Now
a-
sorcerers.
Okay.
Sorcerers' spell casting ability is based on what? I thought sorcerer was charisma. Yeah, it should be charisma.
I think so.
I don't know.
Okay, so now if you're playing a sorcerer, this is actually good to know. So if you're playing a sorcerer, the main casting stat would be charisma. So you have a 15 here. So you do get a +2, and that's one of your higher stats. Now, is there did you actually build it
Yes.
that way, knowing this?
Yes.
Okay, so the intelligence, I'm assuming, is you were role playing with it. She comes from a noble background, so
Yes.
naturally she has a higher intelligence. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So that's actually a perfect example of not min-maxing your character based on combat stats. Your character is built more for your background and role play, but sorcerer maybe is because, while they were born with magic, they might be more intelligent than charismatic, especially if they're snobby to the people around them. I wouldn't classify that as terribly charismatic. But because they speak
Yeah.
well, that's their modifier, So I like the
Mhm.
theme. That's really good. All right, so and then let's go back. We got like 1 or 2 more to look at, and then we'll roll into one. Joe, who's this
No.
Joe?
If I'm gonna leave the call, then I can't hear anything. getting
Oh.
really annoying. Yeah,
I
that's why I
just
keep
left.
doing.
Okay. I'm not sure who's Joe, but we'll go ahead and let's see. Lynx, yours is fixed, right?
Yes.
So, Rock Gnome Barbarian. All right. So we got 2 barbarians, 2 fighters, and a sorcerer so far. I like it.
Ooh,
Very smash him in the face based,
indeed.
right?
We
Yeah.
better not get too beat up, otherwise we're not gonna be able to.
Honestly, I'm just gonna have you guys facing goblins, and it's pretty easy for melee
Yeah.
based characters. So you should be all right. Depends on if I get
Yeah.
nat 20s all night, so it's fine. So you have the same background as my character, which is soldier, but you went with a barbarian, which is interesting. So what is your inspiration for giving your barbarian the soldier background?
I essentially, for the sake of the argument, wanted to make this character as chaotic as possible.
Yes.
Like, I wanted to choose like the backgrounds and stuff like at random and like not make it make any sense, and then try to come up with a reason for it. Like that's why I went with like
Okay.
gnome barbarian. You know?
So you went with a little bit like you weren't going for synergy, you were going for this sounds like fun.
Exactly.
Well, that's what we were talking about, and that's another really good example on how to build a character. Just it does not have to be synergistic with your class or whatever. You like you were saying earlier, Lynx. There's or I think it was either Kitty or Lynx when you was talking about Grog, right?
Yes.
The orc who was also a rogue, but they weren't sneaky. They just intimidated everybody else into looking the other way.
Yeah.
That's a very thematic character, which is built differently than what you would expect. And this one looks to be a little bit like that because you have charisma is really high, but you're a barbarian and you still smash face.
Yep.
So that's really interesting. I like it. All right.
Because as a gnome barbarian, you would have to constantly defend the fact that you're strong. So your
Yeah.
intimidation needs to be up there as well. Because you're essentially like a pocket explosion.
Right?
Yeah, like a pocket punch. So you know you can hit big, but you also gotta talk big because you're so small already.
I gotcha. Yeah. So let's see. I just left the page. All right. So that's really cool. It's just seeing different ways of building different characters. One was very thematic. So, what was it? We got Kitty's character, which is very thematic. So you built it more based on the role play, and then you've got Lynx's character, which is just like, hey, this just sounds like fun. There's not really a theme there, but you kind of made one after you chose the things that sounded fun and you tied it all together. So it was the reverse process, same result.
I actually chose the picture because like it reminded me of that concept.
Yeah, I agree.
Right?
Yeah, I noticed
Yes.
you were the only other one that had like a custom picture instead of one of the ones you can just pick off the site.
Right.
Yeah. If you remember that guy from Ratatouille, he was like this
Oh, I do.
Yeah.
Mhm.
dude, but he was angry.
And his
all
head
the time. He was
exploded.
just- Exactly.
And then
Yup.
Lemon just
That's the
doesn't
feeling I
have a
want to
character
go for.
picture.
That's the
Looking at
feeling I
you
want
there,
to go
Lemon.
for,
Hey,
so-
Mad Dogs doesn't either.
Um,
I,
but then
I
again,
don't
I have
See
no
Mad
clue-
Dogs.
I have no clue as to what I'm doing
okay.
either. So, yeah,
Well, so is Joe yours?
Oh,
no.
Okay. So Joe's must have been either Morns or 002. Hopefully 02 got what he was looking for out of this because he was the one who was originally, and he, he's a little bit younger, so he had to go. I'm assuming he has like school tomorrow or something. But fortunately, I think he was able to stick around for the most part. I didn't see when he dipped out, but he was the one who originally wanted to know how to play, and I think we got through most of how to build a character in the beginning, which is really good.
Yes.
So let's take our characters here. We have at least 6 people. I'm not going to use mine. We have 6 people. Let's do a combat encounter. So I will paint a picture. And when you're going through a campaign, a lot of the modules that come with D&D, they paint a picture in the book. So you'd have sections where you read them to the players. And I will give you an example. Let's see. Game rules. This account should have access to them. I just got to look at the sources. Player's handbook. Yep. Choosing a race. Yep. Okay, I do have access. So I'm going to pull up Lost Minds of Phandelver. We're going to go through the first encounter. So let's see. Goblin arrows. So there are a couple of different things you do with this.
Oh,
And
no.
it says in the... I'm sorry, what?
Nothing. Just
Okay, you good?
audio cutting.
So in this, in the DM's section, it'll actually tell you, read the following box text to start the encounter. So, you know, you got your party, they've come together for one reason or another. They've got this whole thing, you know, in the city of Neverwinter, a dwarf named Gundren Rockseeker asked you to bring a wagon load of provisions to the rough and tumble settlement of Phandalin. A couple of days travel southeast of the city, Gundren was clearly excited and more than a little secretive about his reasons for the trip, saying only that he and his brothers had found something big and that he'd pay you 10 gold pieces each for escorting his supplies safely to Barthen's Provisions, a trading post in Phandalin. He then set out ahead of you on horse, along with a warrior escort named Sildar Hallwinter, claiming he needed to arrive early to take care of business. You spent the last few days following the high road south from Neverwinter, and you've just recently veered east along the Tribor Trail. You've encountered no trouble so far, but this territory can be dangerous. Bandits and outlaws have been known to lurk along the trail. And then there's some role play that you would go through. Usually it's like, you know, opening up, what do you guys do? And then it starts framing what you would see, and it starts talking about a couple things as you get through the trail. You've been on Tribor Trail for about a half day. As you come around a bend, you spot 2 dead horses sprawled about 50 feet ahead of you, blocking the path. Each has several black feathered arrows sticking out of it. The woods press close to the trail here, and with a steep embankment, the dense thicket on either side. And you might, as a DM, say something, you know, this looks suspicious, or this is, you know, you guys get kind of a bad feeling about this, or they might just leave it, which is what my DM did. My DM said what happened in the book because he just felt that that was adequate, and some might not agree. Some might say that is. Do it how you want to do it. Either way, it plays out the same, because you might go in like I did and be like, well, I'm going to go investigate the horses. Okay. Well, for me, it played out like, oh, well, you just got surrounded by a bunch of goblins. So in this case, the goblins, they see you guys approach and they're going to engage with you. They see a cart with some people on it. They see some goods, and this other cart with some dead horses is blocking the path. You guys are primed and ready for picking. So what I'll have you guys do now is roll for initiative. Those of you who know how to play, you know how to do it. For those of you who haven't played before, in your character sheet, you can straight up roll for initiative on the part where it says initiative. It's pretty straightforward. If you have real dice, you can always roll it and add it together.
Oh, that's cool.
Yo, fucking 15. Let's go.
So, and this is one of my favorite parts, because as long as you guys roll it in D&D Beyond, and this is all in the same campaign, I can see what you rolled, so that I, as the DM, don't have to ask you what you rolled, and we can just roll with it, if that makes sense. Roll with it.
Interesting.
Ha 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 ha. Roll with it.
All right, so I don't have a combat tracker for this one, but We're just gonna kind of go based on the stuff we see here. Just keep in keep in mind what your initiatives were. So Mad Dog,
roll
it
that
looks like you
again?
rolled. It looks like you rolled 3 times. We'll take the middle one, the
Yeah.
9.
Okay.
And then you've got, let's see, Thorder. So let's see, RJ, that's your character, right?
Yes, that is mine.
Okay, so you're going last. The initiative for Mad Dog, we're going with a 9. Sameen, you're at a 15. Knight, it looks like you rolled the hit.
Where do I roll it? That was a while ago.
Yes. Okay. You would. Oh, wait. Hold on. Thorder, you didn't even roll, did you?
It said the
Oh.
custom roll for mine.
I see it. I see it. So did you? Okay. So with a custom roll, how did that include your modifier at all? So
I
look,
don't know.
look right here on D&D Beyond. Do you see on this? Can you see where my mouse is? How I'm kind of floating over stuff. See this right here?
Yeah.
So the initiative, that's what you click. You just click right on that number and it rolls the die for you. There you go. So Knight, you got an 8. Mad Dog, you got a 9. Sameen, you got a 15.
Okay.
Lynx, you rolling yours?
I said to go.
Oh, Lynx had to go. I forgot about that. Okay. So we're just doing, let's see, 4 of us, right? Yep, so 4. So that's good. All right. You good, Kitty?
I'm gonna punch something.
Audio's bugging out.
Yes, I'm
Alright.
returning this, and then give me a new one. We're having a serious issue.
All right. So I'm gonna go. Let's see my encounters. We're gonna try just right here. Oh shoot. Oh shoot. I'm not prepared for that. Goblin. Boom. Add 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're gonna give 1. Wait, hold on. What was the encounter?
The stream is so delayed.
I know. Let's see. So, okay, 4 goblins. I was right. 2 on the side of the road and 2 in the back. So what's gonna come out of the woods is 2 goblins bearing swords and 2 goblins behind each on each side of the road, almost like in a kind of loose formation as best as a goblin can do it. And they'll be about, I would say, 20 to 30 feet from you. We'll say 20 for simplicity's sake. And the sword-bearing ones are closer. The archers are about 10 feet further behind them at 30 feet. And let's see. Wait, hold on. What is this? Increment goblin quantity. I don't care about that.
Okay, I have one more.
Save encounter. And I don't know how to do the rest of this, so I'm not going to. Goblin, there we go. That's all I was trying to do. So the first, we'll see, first goblin, we're gonna do dice, roller. 1, 2, 3, 4. So those will be the 2 swords and the 2 archers. So the first goblin on the left side rolled an 8 for his initiative.
Oh, they rolled well.
They did.
Oh,
Sound off your initiatives again, really quick. One more time.
8.
9.
4.
Okay. And Sameen.
Yes.
What's your initiative? It was 15, right?
Yeah, 15.
And then the goblins, each of them have a +2 dex modifier, which dex is what determines your initiative. So the first one, the first sword, is that's a 10. Second one is see, this is the other sword. That one's a 22, so that one's gonna go probably first. And this is just me being transparent. As a little bit more of a subtle DM, I might hide the rolls and then just tell you who goes. But you guys are seeing the numbers, so you know how it goes and like how it plays. The left goblin archer is at 19, and then the right goblin archer is at 17. So the goblins 2, 3, and 4 will go first. So the let's see. There's knight. We have a barbarian. That's RJ.
Yep.
And then Mad Dog, you are a paladin.
Yeah.
And how I apologize. I did not look at your character.
Yeah.
Are you confident you got it or no?
No.
Okay. Give me 1 second. I'll look at it for you, and then we'll continue. I just realized that we did not actually talk about it.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna pause that encounter. We didn't get anywhere with it, so it's okay for now. All right. You got your Heart of Darkness, the haunted one. Ooh, not a lot of people go for that one. That's good. All right. So you are a paladin. Your HP's fine. Looks like you got your stats okay. Were you going to be going for like a sort of caster, maybe like a intelligence based paladin, or were you going to be a frontliner?
I really hadn't kind of figured that out, but probably shows.
Okay.
But kind of like the medic in the battlefield type of.
Okay. So for paladins, they get a couple of spells. I don't think I can give them to you. You might have to go in and do it yourself. So if you're gonna be the medic type, there's like lay on hands and things to that effect.
Yeah,
So-
I've got.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, that comes with being a paladin,
Oh,
I believe.
okay. Give me 1 second. I'm just gonna go and change the class of mine to paladin just to see how it looks. I don't care about any of that. Yeah, you do have lay on hands, and then you have divine sense. All right, cool. So you get spells given to you, and you can smite things. I believe you don't get smite until later, though.
No,
Yes.
no,
so-
smite is.
Yeah, you get smite at second level. So first level you don't
Yeah.
get much. However, first level you don't stay there long.
No.
All right, so that answers my question. That's good. And Kitty already knows how to play, so I don't have to worry about her spells. I believe, right?
Yes. You did not.
Okay.
And my mic decided to not pick that up. Wow. I said you don't. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right. So the only thing I would make sure to do is Mad Dog's over here going through all the equipment, giving himself all the goodies. All right. No, I see you were playing around with it. That's fine. You got spiked armor and a longsword, so we'll go ahead and equip those. Your longsword, we'll just say you have with both hands because you don't have a shield right now.
Right.
All right. So you got a couple of things in here, obviously, with the extra items and all that. You wouldn't get those until after your DM gives them to you. You would just use starting equipment. But
Right.
you have some starting equipment, so we can work with it. It's not a big deal. And your languages. Looks like you got one from Ganassi, you got one from the Haunted one, 2 from the Haunted one, and then you got your common. Okay. I mean, all in all, you built a decent character. If you're gonna go for a paladin, I would primarily focus on your strength and charisma. as the two main ones, because odds are you'll be fighting on the front lines
Right.
as a paladin, usually. Now, if you wanted to be a support caster, what I would recommend is maybe going cleric, because they kind of follow a lot of the similar rules that a paladin would, just in terms of like roleplay. But they focus more on the background. I'm going to heal people. So
Yeah.
you do get lay on hands, and you do have like a spell slot or two, so you can still do that.
Right.
Because I believe, yeah, you get like, I'm not seeing them on mine for some reason. It's not showing up. They might be under features or traits or something. Yeah, okay. So you get lay on hands. You have a pool of 5 HP, and you can give that to somebody, and you can use an action to do so. Okay. So you only get a pool of 5 HP though. So
Right.
you would use this as an action. You can use it any number of times as long as you have an action available. So maybe you would keep it so like if somebody goes down, you can lay on hands them for 1 HP and it gets them up automatically.
Right.
Whereas if you just had one person who's like a little bit wounded, you could dump all 5 into them. So you can use it how you want.
Right.
All right. So, I mean, it's not a bad character build. I would just maybe change the ability scores around a little bit to be a little bit more paladin oriented. But other than that, I think it's fine. All right. So getting back to the encounter again, 2 goblins on each side. The goblins are going to go first. We're going to go ahead and just do basic movement and attacks. The 2 first goblins, the swords, one's going to go last, or in his group, it'll be last. So that'll be, it'll go after Sameen. But then the goblin on the right side of the road will say approaches RJ. RJ, you are a barbarian. So you have the ability to shrug things off and potential, like you're level 1, so maybe not yet. But you should be a little bit more survivable than most of the other characters. So the first goblin, I needed to hover over him, there he goes. First goblin goes to take an attack with his scimitar. That'll be a +4 to hit for the goblin. So we'll roll a d20 and get. I'm just gonna take a point here and say this is literally what happened to my character when I first started playing.
Oh my god.
This is literally what my character had happened to him. So
Oh
thank,
no!
thank
Oh no!
goodness it's only an example. But it's a good example
yeah.
because we need to see it.
Yeah.
So a nat 20 means you double the amount of dice
Oh,
you roll
God.
for damage.
Yeah, it's double damage pretty much.
It's not double damage, it's double dice. You can home rule in different things, but
double damage.
it's pretty much, yeah.
Double
So it'd be
damage.
2d6 instead of 1d6. So 2d6 plus 2 for
Oh.
this guy. So we're going to roll 2d6 and watch them both be 6s. All right. So it's 7 damage. So it could have been much worse. 7 damage is not too bad. Especially because I think you're close to almost like 20 HP, right? RJ?
RJ.
Oops, sorry.
How
I'm
much-
off.
Yeah, so in your character creator, you can go up to the top where it says heal and damage. You can type in that number, however how much damage you took, and click on damage, and it'll reduce your health accordingly.
7 damage, right?
7 damage. So you should be pretty bloody because we're only level
What am
1.
I gonna do, bro?
All right, so
Bro, what am I gonna do? I only have 8 HP.
well,
It'll be
You're
fine.
also-
they
you're also-
crit
you're
it,
also
you'll
in
be
the back.
fine.
so the goblins are gonna go for who the people are in front. So let's see. We're gonna 1d4. Let's see.
don't die, guys.
We're gonna do this. So this one's gonna go for Mad Dog, and we're gonna roll a. This is an archer. He's gonna roll his d20, and this one's gonna be a 15 to hit. So Mad Dog, your AC is 15. So even if that ties, the tie goes to the attacker. So the goblin will hit, and we just need to roll damage. So that would be 1d6 plus 2.
Okay.
So you would take 8 damage. So you would just take that in your damage counter.
Mhm.
So you type that in and then
Yeah.
apply.
Oh my god.
Goodness.
And then the next one will go on. We'll spread this one out. So the only one who in the front line I believe left is Fox.
Nice.
Fox, you are not. You are up. So Knight is up. So roll a d20 to hit. It's 15. What's your AC?
Armor class, right? That's
Yes.
Oh, that misses. I have 16.
Ah. So the first one to miss.
Ooh.
So
Let's go.
Ooh.
Yep. So you're essentially what happened was the goblin archer on the left side of the road drew back, fired, but that armor was just a little bit too tough, and it just dink right off of it. But you felt the
Oh.
impact; it just
Nice.
didn't hurt. So then
Ooh.
that one missed, and now on to Sameen. It
Did it
is
tickle a
your
little bit?
turn. Sameen,
My
which one? What are you gonna do?
Yay.
Fireball.
Good. Okay, here you.
Cast a spell, I guess.
Okay. So, which one?
I do not remember what the spells are for the sorcerer class.
That's all right. I'll come in and take a look and see if I can help you. I can't see your spells for some reason. Do you have a spell assigned?
Minor illusion.
Oh, that's the only one you got. Okay, hold on.
Yeah.
So that means that you didn't apply any.
You're echoing, by the way. I guess not.
You have no known spells. Okay, so you got to add spells. Why do you have 4
Okay.
cantrips?
How do I do that?
Let's go.
Okay. So in your character creator, you're level 1. You have Dragon Ancestor. It looks like you didn't
Mhm.
select any for that
Um,
because you picked Draconic Bloodline, so you want to pick a Draconic Ancestor as well while you're doing that. But you would actually under the class see where on my screen where I'm looking at class features and such. I don't know if you can see that.
yeah.
So class features, but then there's another one right next to it called spells. You just click on that, and then it'll tell you have no known spells, but you click add spells, and then a list pops up. So
Yeah.
I mean, you might want to take Firebolt as a cantrip. It's a damaging spell that doesn't require any special components or anything, and you can cast it any number of times you want. It doesn't use a spell slot. It's a good one to take. And then let's see, you can do maybe like Prestidigitation. That's a good additional thing. Maybe Ray of Frost. Those are cantrips, and you get 4 of them. You have a lot of options for cantrips. That's unusual. But then you're on to the first level spells.
I think elves have 4 cantrips to start off with.
Okay. So your
What
first
were
level
the other ones that you
spells.
said?
Oh, I was just saying, maybe 2 damaging ones, 2 utility ones. I just said 2 damaging ones and Prestidigitation. So like Firebolt and Frost Ray and Prestidigitation, and the 4th one is whatever you want. I'm just giving you random recommendations here. I would never recommend True Strike. It's just kind of a waste. You're better off using your action to attack twice rather than trying to cast a spell and attack.
Take it.
Um, so for your first level spell slots, you get 2 spells to choose from. For that, I would pick a utility and a damaging one.
Jesus Christ.
It's actually good we didn't go over this earlier, so it's probably good to go through this.
Yeah. I'm gonna be honest, I already forgot what you said. Mad Dog, you're still echoing, by the way.
For the cantrips,
Yep.
okay, I'll just put them on there for you. Okay, apparently not.
Okay.
It decided to kick me out. Hold on.
Echo, it's just
What?
my mic picking up my air conditioner.
Gotcha.
Hmm.
Firebolt, Ray of Frost, and then Prestidigitation would be one, so I'll put that on there for you. And then we'll pick a single damaging and a single utility spell. So maybe for your damaging spell, we'll pick Magic Missile. And then a utility spell, you might want to take... Sleep is a good one. There's a couple of other ones. I'll just say sleep. Sleep would be a good one. All right. So you now have a utility spell, crowd control spell, and 3 damaging spells, and a utility spell. So you have 4 cantrips, none of which require spell slots. They're all their own action, though. So, like, you can assume that Prestidigitation is not useful in combat, and everything else uses an action. So you could say, I want to use Magic Missile and use a spell slot. You can use Sleep and try to put the goblins to sleep. You could use Firebolt, does not require a spell slot, and does 1d10 damage if you hit. Same thing with Ray of Frost, except it's 1d8 damage if you hit, but it slows them.
Okay.
You don't even have to use a spell. You can use your equipment. It's up to you.
I'll probably do Firebolt.
Firebolt?
Ooh.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
So roll to hit. And you would just click on that +4.
Oh. 21.
Oh, okay. I didn't see you roll it. All right. So 21 to hit. Assuming that was with your +4 mod. So we would call that essentially like a dirty 20. But that will hit the goblin for sure. Now roll your 1d10 damage. And which one are you attacking, by the way? You got 2 on the left, 2 on the right. 2 with swords, 2 with arrows. Kind of like an even formation.
Ew. Arrows on the left.
One of the arrow one on the left.
And I got 6. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So
Yes.
that'll be goblin number 3, and you got 6 damage. All right. So the goblin on the left is, I mean, he's just looking so bloody right now. Like, you threw that firebolt at him, and his face is bubbling. He can't really see what's going on. Like, he nearly dropped his bow. You see the fight leaving this goblin very quickly, as well as pretty much what's left of his life force. But he's still standing, but he is looking very, very bad. Very worse for wear. So, and then that would be your turn. Next up would be the final goblin, and this one will go up to one of the frontliners. Where is my dice? 2, and this is going to go on Mad Dog again. And he's going to roll to hit on the sword.
No.
All right.
I'm doing what now?
This is the last goblin to go. I went up to you, Mad Dog, and tried to attack you, but he whiffed pretty bad. So we could chalk it up to you being, nimble, surprisingly more nimble than a little goblin, or more likely you have heavier armor. So this goblin, when he went to go attack you, it didn't get a good angle, and it just scraped right off of your armor. Maybe parried with the sword.
All right.
All right, so that goblin's done. Next up is going to be Mad Dog. It is your turn. What do you want to do?
I'll attack with my longsword.
Okay.
Ooh. The let's see. The one of the let's see. The front goblin on the left.
Okay. So the front goblin on the left, and by the way, what I'm going to do, Mad Dog, is I'm going to hot swap 2 of your stats. I'm going to take your intelligence and swap it to your strength, just because you're as a paladin, you're going to struggle with a low strength. Okay.
Right.
So you'll have a let's see, that is a 40. So you have a 15 strength, and your intelligence isn't going to matter for this. So that'll give you a +2 on your roll. So whatever you roll, just add 2 to it. Okay.
All right. So where do I roll at?
On the longsword, under your actions. If you look at the stream, I have it up right now. So you would have actions selected, and you would just click the longsword on the +1.
I don't see it. Hold on. Let me pull up the stream.
You're good. And you know, if you know your character stats and you don't have D&D Beyond pulled up or whatever, obviously you can just roll real dice, or you can go to Google and, like I've been doing, type in dice roller, and Google's got a built-in dice roller.
Okay. Yeah. See, I'm not showing longsword under my actions for some reason.
It's showing under mine. So, do you have the ability on the bottom left to just click on that little die symbol and pull up a d20?
Yeah. Yeah.
Just click on that and roll the d20.
17.
All right, that'll hit. I don't even need the modifiers, so you're good. Because the goblins only have an armor class of 15. So 17 will hit no problem. And the goblin that you want to attack, which one would you? And I'm asking this normally ahead of time, but I forgot to ask.
Yeah, I said front right.
Front right. Okay, so goblin that probably came to attack you because you got attacked from both sides.
Yeah.
So yeah, this one you go ahead and roll for your damage now, which is a 1d8.
Three.
So 3 plus 2, so you do 5 damage to this goblin. Okay.
Cool.
So both of the the first goblin that you shot a firebolt at in the back left of the road, that one's very damaged. It has 1 health left. I'm telling you this just because, you know, it's kind of obvious at this point. But this is also so that you can kind of think, well, hey, we kind of know how much health they have and what to shoot for when you kind of get experience with certain creatures. So you did 5 damage on this goblin, so he's also very bloody. Not as much as the one before, but very, very bloody. All right, next up is going to be Fox Knight. What are you doing?
So where is like the goblins in relation to where I'm standing? Like,
Essentially,
are they-
there's 2 right up in front of you guys with their swords. One of them is very bloody. And then there's 2 archers in the back, one of which is also very bloody. That's on the left side.
Well, clearly, Knight is he's gonna take his sword up and just do his best to just like impale this already bloodied goblin to, you know, kill him out of here because
Get him out.
he's already hurt.
Get him out of
Get him out of here.
All right, roll hit.
I missed.
What'd you roll? What'd you roll?
I rolled a 9 plus
All
2. It's
right,
only
all right.
11.
Yeah. So
Oh,
same thing. What happened tonight is the goblin came up and, you know, to attack him previously and just scraped right off of his armor. Well, in this case, the goblins don't have great armor, but they're much more nimble. So you're trying to kill the one that's already wounded, and he is not having it. He's losing his fight real quick. But he sees you coming and he just rolls right out of the way. And currently now he's prone trying to avoid you. So there is a goblin on the ground in front of Knight and Mad Dog.
Fuck him up.
All right. So now next in line is RJ. It is your turn. What do you want to do?
I want to attack the goblin who attacked me.
That would also be no, that would actually be one of the archers. So you have 2 goblins right in front of you. I will tell you that if you disengage from them, that would cost you an action, which means you wouldn't be able to use your main attack. All right. But if you chose to just walk away from them without, you know, taking the time to avoid their interactions, because even if there's a goblin prone on the ground, he's still going to swipe at you if you're walking over his head, you know. But if you're trying to actively disengage from them, what? Oh, we have a. Oh, hey, Kyberry. 02. I didn't think you'd come back. All right, so we're just wrapping up the combat scenario.
That's,
If you check out the stream, we're just.
Lemon, that's also me.
Yeah, I've been watching the stream.
I was
just
wondering
going back
about
and
that.
forth.
Anyway. All right.
Yeah,
So
there are 2 me's in the call, guys.
that's why I was so confused. Anyway. But yeah, 02, feel free to keep watching the stream to kind of see what we got going on, but you're hearing it live.
Yeah.
So,
I've been watching it for a little bit.
all right, cool. So the yeah. So essentially, what happens is you get a scenario where if you try to walk away from somebody who's actively engaged in combat with you, they're going to take the opportunity, usually, not always, to use their one reaction to swipe at you, and that's
I
something
think
you can do.
I think I actually want to attack the one that was closest to me.
Okay, they're I would say they're both about equally distant to you. One's wounded and the other one's not, and the one on the ground
the
that's
wounded one.
wounded. The
Back
one
the
that,
unwounded one.
I'll tell you
You
this:
got the wounded one.
the one that's on the ground that's wounded is a much easier target for you.
Attack that one. You got this, RJ. Kill it.
I think I want to attack the non-wounded.
Yes.
Okay,
one.
all right.
Interesting.
So RJ, go ahead and roll to hit.
Ooh, let's go.
Ooh,
All right,
Just
all
on
right.
money.
fancy.
Just barely got it. So yeah, you will hit on a 15. Go ahead and roll for damage, RJ.
Big damage.
Oh, so close.
Oh.
So you've got
Ooh.
3 of these goblins are just they're very, very bloody. They're not, I mean, you can tell the fight's leaving the ones that got hit, but at the same time, they're still in it. No, they're hurt, but they're not dead, and they're still in it. So all 3 of the ones you guys have hit are like on death's door.
Ooh.
Nice.
All right. So
You guys have music
love
on the
that
background because
grass.
that is I have music on it. And it's making this fucking sick.
the stream does have music on it, yes. It's a tiny little bit of background music, so maybe that's what's playing. I don't know.
I got my own music on.
Muted.
Ooh.
Oh, well then there you go. I was gonna say the background music can't be that loud.
Yeah, no, no.
All right.
Pulled up a song.
You know what? Maybe I should have had it going. Dang, man. Now you got me thinking. Maybe I should plug it in, turn it up. Turn it up. All right, hold on. Background music. Let's see. What do we got? I got some EDM. That's not gonna be appropriate. We'll just leave it as.
I have a
mild-
song
mild
I could
background.
put on it.
That's okay. It's okay. We're almost done with this anyway. We'll
Okay.
wrap up. So yes. So the next in line. Now we have cycled through everyone's turns. We are now back up to the top of the turn order. The first to go is going to be the one that is prone right in front of you guys. So he's gonna pick himself up, kind of shuffle off to the side, and he's seeing kind of where the combat's going, but he's also, like I said, they're not dead. So he's like, all right, hyping himself up. He's gonna go for one more attack on, let's see, it's gonna be on Mad Dog again. Let's see if it'll hit.
Oh boy.
Ooh. Ooh.
Damn.
I only have
Alright.
4 points.
So this guy, he's persistent, but he's adorably persistent. He just can't land a hit, and it's like a little kid just flapping his hands at you, but with a very sharp sword.
Flipping his hands.
But with a very sharp sword. For goblin standards, at least. It's probably like a butter knife. So anyway, he does whiff, and you do not take any damage. Next up is going to be Goblin, the one that is on death's door off in the woods. He's not happy about it, but he's gonna take a shot at the one who did so much damage to him, and he's gonna go ahead and attack Samin. So he's gonna roll to hit, but
Ah.
he can't see out of one of his eyes. You burnt him.
Oh.
Ooh.
So
So he has a
lucky-
disadvantage roll.
Lucky
Also,
for you, because he just rolled a 19. He would have definitely hit you if he could see out of both of his eyes, but he rolled a 3 for his other one. So he actually will shoot. It's almost like seeing double. He thought he was shooting right at you, and he was like, yeah, I'm going to hit her for sure. That was that 19. But what he really saw was the double vision and shot way off to the side. Not even close.
Oh,
Just-
fireball.
hmm.
All right. So
Yay.
next is the other goblin archer. All right, so this one is going to and I'm gonna just randomize this one. This one's gonna attack RJ,
Ooh.
and he's gonna also just off into the woods. They're goblins. They're not very well trained. Okay, so they're not very good. They got some motivation, but it's waning. We'll chalk that one up to he's watched all three of his companions just eat crow so far. They started out strong, but they're goblins. Next up, Sameen, what do you do?
I'm gonna finish off that goblin archer with another firebolt just to make him feel bad about himself, you know?
Same one?
Yeah.
All right, knock
Damn.
yourself out. Let's go.
Ooh.
Oh, it's not gonna do it. So what happens in this case is you're firing a firebolt into the woods. So
Uh-oh.
Shit.
you miss the goblin.
Oh no!
you miss the goblin, but it hits the tree right behind him, and now the tree's on fire. So
We can catch him on fire too, definitely.
I don't
This can definitely
think
work,
that's
guys.
how
I
that
like
works.
that.
Whose turn is next?
next up is going to be the other goblin.
God.
I mean, there's two goblins right in front of you guys, both of which are very, very hurt. You guys did a number on both of them. This one's not prone, but he's still there, and he's going to take a swing at you. So he is going to go for the one that did the damage to him, and that would be Knight. So he's going to go for you.
Oh.
And yet again.
Wait, I think I was
Battery
going to
low.
attack the one who was still standing.
Oh, you're right. Well,
Yeah,
either
I
way,
missed.
You know what? He got confused on which one he was trying to attack, and he thought Knight was the one that attacked him. And it's just a
Well,
melee, and it's wild, and he missed. So next up is Mad Dog. What do you do?
Let's see here. What do we have left?
All of them are still up. The two in front of you are very wounded, and then there's one in the woods that is burnt and alive, but very hurt.
Okay.
Another one that's actually not been touched yet.
The only action to my longsword is slash.
Okay. So go ahead and
Um,
roll for an attack.
Oh.
Is that right?
Yeah, so
Right.
we already talked about modifying it, so you would actually do +2 to that, but that would only make it 8, unfortunately. So you will miss again.
Oh.
I think you missed only this time, though. I think you actually hit last time.
Yeah, I hit last
Yeah.
time.
Okay, so this time you'll miss. Same scenario, wild melee gets confusing, and you just take your swing, but it doesn't connect. Next up is gonna be Fox. What do you do?
Okay, can I put us? Sorry, this song is banging. Is Rhythm Bot like something I could use here? Cause oh,
I'd be okay with it if you pick an appropriate song, and I'll just turn it down for the stream.
Oh. It's appropriate. Appropriate, yeah, it's appropriate. It is appropriate.
All right, I'll mute the background music for you. Go ahead and bring it in.
There we go.
Oh.
So, next up is, like I said, Fox. What is your
All right,
what is your
Knight.
action?
There are two goblins in front of him, right? Both in reaching
Correct.
distance. All right. So he sees that, but he also sees a now burning tree next to a very, nice forest that he personally would prefer if it was not burned down. So he is going to, instead of, swiping at these conveniently placed goblins, he's gonna. Oh, but do I have to do an action to because I have a water
you-
pouch.
I was gonna say
So,
if you
Is that an
want-
action if I wanted to try and douse the tree with water, or would I
Yeah,
have to?
so I would allow it. The only
Oh.
thing you're gonna have to be wary of is if you try to get to the tree.
Yeah,
going
I'll
through
have
these
to. So I'll
goblins-
either have to take an action, disengage now, or risk getting hit to get
up to
there
you.
this turn and put it out this turn. Essentially, right?
Yep, and it's up to you how you want to do it.
Knight, seeing this tree, forgets about the goblins, and he is going to, without taking any action, just sprint straight towards this tree, take out his
jeez.
water pouch, and he doesn't care about these little goblins. And he's
Okay.
gonna take the water pouch and just get all the water out on top of this tree to get the fire out because
All
he doesn't
right.
want a forest fire.
So both of these goblins were right in melee with you. Both of them at least took one swipe at you at
Yeah.
one point or another.
It's a
They're gonna
big
do that
risk,
again.
I know.
First one, it'll hit you, and this
Ooh.
one will do 7 damage.
Ooh,
Ooh.
Oh,
that's a beefy hit. Ooh.
Yeah,
Jesus.
yeah. All right, we'll see what the dice gods do. Will the second
boy.
one hit?
Let's hope you don't die here.
The second one hits. Oh no!
Oh,
Oh
Uh-oh.
no!
Roll.
Uh-oh.
5 damage.
ah.
That is exactly as much as it needed to be.
Oh, so Knight.
Oh,
And-
wait.
and-
Oh, no, it is... Oh.
what
All
are-
right,
What are your
Knight
features?
trying to run towards the tree with his water pouch in hand. Both these goblins turn, and I imagine they probably just like cut his shins off and he falls to the
pretty
ground.
much. I couldn't have said it better myself. So, yep, Knight is now down, you guys. So, what you will do on your turn, it is the end of your turn here, so you will take a death saving throw. So,
Yes.
putting your damage, bring yourself down to 0, and then roll a d20. If you roll a 10 or higher, higher than a 10, you get a pass. If
How do
you
I
roll below
do that?
in the bottom left, there's just a button for dice rolling. You can just select any number of dice and roll it.
Got it.
So just click on that, go up to the d20, and then
There we go.
roll.
Oh, you gotta be kidding me. Oh,
What-
that's one fail.
All right, so it's one fail. You
One
have,
fail.
You have the ability to take 2 more, and then you're
Yeah,
dead.
I could take 2 more fails
You got
though.
this. You got this.
Well, you only take
Oh,
1
no.
more.
Fine,
no.
kill the
If he-
goblins.
If you take 3 fails, you die.
Yeah.
So
I'll be fine.
next up is RJ. What do you do?
Attack the one I attacked.
Okay, and that would be the
One on the left, I believe.
yeah, the one on the left. Both of them are on death's door, so whatever, if you hit, they're dead.
Not this
17.
RJ, I believe.
17. So with a
Let's
very
go.
insistent, swift
Oh,
decision,
I-
you bring your you have a sword, right? Or is it
Hand
an
axe.
Hand axe. So like a lumberjack chopping wood with all of his might, with a single swift throw on his arm, cleaves that goblin right down the middle.
Oh,
Ooh,
Dead.
You dead.
Next.
bad.
All right, so that one is dead. Next up is we're back on the top of turn order now. We are at Goblin. The first goblin to go is still kicking, and let's see if he can actually hit something this time. So he is gonna go. He's gonna go for RJ because his first target is now face down in the dirt, and his other target is the one that just killed his comrade.
Uh-oh.
Oh, all right.
Angie.
I'm
So,
ready.
He rolls a 12 plus 2. He is at a 14. What is your AC?
17.
Okay, so it won't hit. It won't hit, and he missed just
Oh.
by a little bit. Maybe you just barely dodged out of the way. By the way, Silverhawk, appreciate you, bud. Thanks for coming by. So yeah, he will not hit. You live to fight another day. Next up, the first goblin, who is still gonna try to hit Samin. He's gonna roll his disadvantage. Now the tree is on fire. He's gonna move away from it, but he still can't hit, and he whiffs even harder.
Oh,
The fire is really distracting. He has no
Oh
idea
my
what's going
God.
on.
poor guy.
All right.
Oh,
So this guy, he is not having a good time of it right now. So all right, that goblin. This is the first one. His eye is essentially seared shut. His companion just got killed in front of him. The tree behind him is on fire. His will to fight is gone, and he takes his bonus action and disengages from combat. He runs away and hides.
Oh,
So this goblin has
Ah.
disengaged from combat entirely. He is now running away. Next up,
You guys are in a game, right?
Hey,
Yeah.
Naughty. Yeah, we're
Hey.
wrapping up a D&D session, and then we're gonna close and we'll go on to other stuff. So we're doing that right now. So next up is the only goblin not to take any damage. This one still got a lot of fight in him. He's gonna keep shooting, and he's gonna go for a Samine,
Ooh.
Feel
Oh,
targeted.
and he rolls a nat 1. Oh my
oh
god!
my.
Oh my god, this guy cannot aim.
Hold on, hold on.
Ow.
Hold on. Oh my god. All right. So the dice gods are in your guys' favor right now.
What do you mean? I'm on the ground. My shin split.
Oh, maybe not yours. but for Samine, they're looking out for you. I mean, they can't hit you. You're connecting. You're obviously lighting things on fire, maybe unintentionally, but it's working. And this goblin, as it rolls its nat 1, it got distracted by the melee. The arrow that its companion had just fired whizzed off so bad it almost hit him, which caused him to fail his shot, which then hits his companion in the front of the melee.
No.
Oh.
I was running away.
No, the one that's still alive in front of you guys.
What?
Oh, he's dead now?
The
So
prone,
yes,
the prone
he
guy?
just shot the only remaining goblin in the back, right in front of you guys.
Ooh.
These are
Oh
goblins.
my god.
This is their coordination. And with that goblin kind of goes, oh shit.
Oh dear.
And he will disengage and book it. So with that, combat is over. These goblins have fled, and your companion is face down in the dirt. You-
I like
roll-
to imagine I'm still like trying to get my water pail through the tree because that's what I was trying to do. Just
does anybody have? Oh, okay, so we have a paladin. You wanted to use this earlier, right, Mad Dog?
Yeah,
So-
I'll use 2 HP to lay hands on
Okay.
Knight.
So Knight, you will get back up. You're conscious again. You'll have 2 HP. You're just face down in the dirt. But otherwise, everyone survived combat. Some of you barely. But otherwise, all in all, a successful encounter. So you guys did a great job.
What about the burning tree?
Yeah, I immediately, as soon as I'm standing,
Yes.
take my water and just whoosh, get it all
I think
out.
you have to roll in order to get back up.
Oh. No, he healed me, right? So I'm just back.
Yeah,
I can
he's
get
up
now.
He's up. He's up.
'Cause I
So
got
your
healed.
companions, this is a good example. Your companions can use a medicine check to stabilize you, which does not bring you above 0, but it makes it so that you stop rolling death saves. Or
Yeah.
if they have a means of healing you with mostly
all.
spells, any abilities like lay on hands for a paladin, in case in point, that gives you the ability to bring somebody up without having to roll that medicine check. You just roll for the number on the die, or in the case of lay on hands, it's just a straight up, I use this many to heal this person for that amount, which is what Bad Dog did. So that's very good. And naturally, when Knight gets up, he has still nothing on his mind aside from putting out that blaze. So he takes what little water he has for drinking water, and he douses it as best he can, and he's just patting it down, just trying to put it out. So you'll get a couple
Hugging
of
the
burns
tree,
on
getting
your
all
hands.
the fire out.
Yeah, you get a couple burns on your hands and
Taking
whatnot,
the
but it'll go
back.
out. It'll go out.
If I got another shot, I was going to take the last one and shove him into the tree.
All right, so that is combat. It's a simple encounter, and I mean, I hope you guys had fun with it and got to use your characters. That's pretty much all we've got for tonight. So, what kind of questions did you guys have in terms of building characters and playing your first encounter? What things did we not touch on that you maybe wanted to talk about?
All I would ask about is like, say something's relevant to their backstory, like a certain weapon or item. Not even like my character specific, but like say they have like a special thing they got for whatever reason. Like how is that implemented? Like you got a special ring, but
Right.
Yeah.
So with and I believe you have a soldier background, right? Yes.
me, not me.
Oh no, yours was custom. I believe Mad Dog was soldier. Somebody was
yeah,
soldier.
Mad Dog.
Lynx. Mad Dog had haunted. Lynx had the soldier background.
Yeah, I
so-
was haunted.
Yes. So Lynx didn't get to do the combat with us. So but if you have like a talisman or something that's attached to your background, that would be something you would use more in role play.
Right.
But anytime you think that it's relevant, you can bring it up. You can straight up be like, hey, I have this thing. Can I use this to do this? And it's up to the DM's discretion at that point if they're like, yeah, okay, I think this would apply to this situation. Or let's see if it does and have you roll a die. Because it could be like, hey, it might. Let's check it out.
Maybe this old Dusty Ring was like actually does something, Something like
Right.
that.
So if you're thinking it might be magical, more often than not, if it's just something that's tied to your background, it's going to be pretty much a no. But if you find things as loot later on, and the description is, it looks like this or whatever, you can sit with an item during a short rest or something to that effect when you have downtime, and you can try to investigate, try to identify and attune to the magic item. Some DMs would maybe require you to have an identify spell before you even know what it is, before you can even attune to it. I don't know if that's regular. I just know the way I've always played is, if you find a magic item, you can try to attune to it, and if it works, you'll get the stats, and we'll tell you what it does. And sometimes, rarely, but sometimes, it will backfire, because it'll be a cursed item. And that could make it so that your character goes crazy, or they, in combat, might lose their attention and start attacking their comrades instead. So it's not always a good idea to attune to an item blindly. You sometimes want to know what it is before you do it. But if you don't have anybody in your party that can identify, it's probably magical. Take a risk. That's what I would do.
Right.
All right. Any other
Gotcha.
questions, you guys?
Okay, I've got a spell that I picked up.
Okay.
It's Pass Without Trace. And it says merge with stone. What does that mean?
Oh, because you're Ganassi. Okay, hold on. I was like, how did you get that?
Sheesh.
Ganassi.
I was over here like, wait a minute, how on earth did you get that? No, it's because you have the Ganassi, which is why. Okay. So Pass Without Trace is, if I recall, more of a utility. It's a spell. I think it might be a
Sure.
feat for you. Oh, Pass Without Trace, yes. So it's concentration. So concentration spells, when you cast them, you have to concentrate on them. So it's not, you have to actively keep the spell going. And if you get distracted or you get attacked and somebody hurts you, you could lose your concentration. There's a number of different ways you can lose it. You can also voluntarily drop it. But as long as you keep concentration, this spell makes it so that for up to 1 hour, you can meld with shadows. So this right here, Veil of Shadow and Silence radiates from you, masking you and your companions from detection. For the
It
duration,
is Sorry, go ahead.
Wow.
for the duration, each creature you choose within 30 feet of you, including you, has a plus 10 bonus, which is really good to any stealth
wow.
checks.
For level 1, that is like crazy.
Yeah, like
Jesus.
that is really, really good.
You basically are invisible. It's
yeah.
fucking,
So, well, for the ones who roll with heavy armor, like Knight, he needs that plus 10 because he's rolling disadvantage. So he, maybe he rolls 2d20 and one of his dice is like, okay, I rolled a 20. Nope, you rolled a 10. Well, I still got a 20 because you gave me a plus 10. Thanks, bud.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Right.
So that's a really good example, actually.
Yeah, that's a perfect example.
Perfect example. But yeah, you can't be tracked except by magical means, which is also really good. A creature that receives the bonus leaves behind no tracks or other traces of its passage. So if you're trying to avoid a combat, by the way, this is another thing to mention, you don't have to fight everything. If you see an encounter, but your goal is to get somewhere, and there's just an obstacle that you can avoid, if you avoid it,
Just walk by.
I would give an equal amount of experience to a party that is able to avoid combat just the same as having fought. Some parties are like, hey, I don't want to fight these guys. It's just there's no point if we can avoid it. They might step on a branch and alert them anyway if they fail their stealth check. But it's worth a shot for some people, and you can avoid it potentially. And Pass Without a Trace is a really good way to do that. So that's very good. I'm glad you brought that up, Mad Dog. Any other questions? All right. So, I mean, it was a great intro to D&D. I know there was a couple of times where we
Yeah.
kind of got on a little bit of a tangent, but it was a great combat experience. I
Fun
feel like
little,
that went pretty well.
Mhm.
Oh, Rose says that she can join in on another time. Like,
Yeah.
Yes.
later on.
So,
Fun intro session.
Also, I
I-
know 5 languages now.
yeah, I know you didn't quite finish your character earlier, so there you go.
Yeah.
All right, so
But yeah, I know
I'm
5 languages. Let's go.
so with that, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up our stream here. Obviously, for those, everybody who was able to hop into the stream and join us, it's been a great time. Not a real Fox. I wonder who that could be.
No
Fox.
clue.
What?
I have no clue.
What? Anyway, thanks for the follow, bud. So I had a lot of fun with you guys. And I know some of you mentioned it before. Man, you guys are killing me right now. I'm over here like, oh yeah, people are oh, it's just you guys.
Oh,
Let's go. Anyway, so it's been obviously a fun experience, but a couple of you mentioned it before that you were open to doing a regular campaign within our Discord. Is that something you would actually want to do?
Oh yeah, definitely.
with these characters, I'd be.
Oh,
down.
that
This
would
would
be
interesting.
dangerous.
Yeah.
If you King Lemon, if you don't have the time, don't be afraid to turn us down, because putting together a campaign is, I know it's tough work. So
Well, what I can do is I can give you guys a little bit more detail on that exact campaign that I just ran you through that first encounter for. Because essentially,
I know that campaign already. 'Cause
I mean,
my
that's
brother
okay.
went through it.
Just don't be meta with it. Play it like your character would, and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
And I might also DM it very differently than you've experienced. You don't know. So
Yeah.
it's just an easy module for everybody to get plugged into for a first time. For those of you who have experience, it works because it's familiar. So I think that's probably a good place to start, and it's easy for me, and I could easily do an initial campaign like that. So I think this would be good. I would be totally open to doing Mondays at 8 if that's okay with you guys.
yeah, sure.
Yeah, that
it
works.
works relatively well for me.
Okay.
I'm trying to pick another cantrip because I have one left to choose, but
Okay. All right. So I think that's a good place to start, and I think we'll probably end up doing this more regularly on Mondays. And That's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
I mean, I'm excited to actually roleplay as the characters too, because we
Yeah.
didn't even do too much.
Yeah, and I know you said that
Yeah.
you've seen the game a lot, but never got to play it. So I mean, it's,
Yeah. And I know I am, as much as I enjoy the combat of it, and I know I'll enjoy that a lot. I know I'm gonna be an RP guy.
Yeah, I
know it's
gotcha.
gonna start- I'm just gonna. Oh,
So
yeah.
yeah,
Thank you for the fucking opportunity for all this, though, Lemon. Like, really, I appreciate it. I'm sure everyone else here also appreciate a lot that you're doing all this for us.
Yeah, and
Yeah, I definitely do.
I was probably more excited for doing this than you guys were. I love D&D. I was so thrilled
I
to
love
see that there
D&D.
was an interest in it. So, I mean, I'm absolutely open to doing stuff like this with you guys, even if we're just doing a one shot once in a while. But yeah, I mean, I had a lot of fun hosting. I had a lot of fun kind of teaching and getting some feedback from those who have a little bit more experience than most. Links, I know you're not here, but you can, get the accolades later. Appreciate you coming on the stream and talking with us and doing a little bit of round table. Your experience helped a lot. But yeah, for that, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up the stream. It was a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to doing this again next week. I think it'll be great.
Mm-hmm.
All right, thanks you guys for checking out the stream, and we'll see you next week.